Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to another Thursday night at the Sports Crib. I see a few of the gentlemen already there in the queue. Dylan's here, Chris here, aka Chuck, uh, Bill. I know Demetrius got his uh, stream in, so I'm just going to bring everybody in. Guys, how are we doing this evening?
So far, so good.
Yeah, what's going on, guys?
Good.
All right. Before we start, of course, another tragedy. So let's start off with at least 10 seconds of silence for the tragedy of last night. Um, Another tragedy. We will kind of discuss it with our first topic here. Um, and I don't know. Well, I we'll see how it kind of intermingles. But we have the Giants manager who has essentially said that he will not come out of the dugout until after the national anthem. Um, he did come out for Memorial Day, acknowledging the veterans, which we have to acknowledge. But it, you know, we look at how things have progressed or not progressed within the last couple of years. Um, Don, what do you think makes his protest so special or especially noticed that we haven't already acknowledged within the last, well, since Sandy Hook?
I'm sorry, who was the question for?
Dylan,
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear.
Okay.
Uh,
maybe he can't. Dylan, are you there?
You know,
Oh, okay.
yeah, I'm here. And to be honest, like I'm one of those guys. I don't like. I don't know. I just don't like talking about this stuff, man. And it's not like I'm not going to talk about it here. It's just, it just hits a little bit different when it happens, 15 minutes down the road from you, right? And, like I literally yesterday was at work getting like water, and a lady that I work with, her husband was in that building, and she just like ran out the door freaking out. Like I'd never seen anything like that. It's pretty crazy. But the protest from the manager from Kapler there, it's it's just another way that I think that these athletes, they have their platform, they know they have it, they use it in their own ways, but like I don't know, like I understand the whole like, you have that right, because of the veterans and all that stuff. And like, for people like you, James, it's awesome. Like we really appreciate that, right? But then it's like we have this right, let's use it, especially if you have the platform to get people's attention, like, like Kaepernick and like Kapler's doing all this stuff. It's like if you have people paying attention to you, use it. Like that's all I really gotta say about it. It's a free country for a reason. And if you can do it and people are going to listen, use it.
Demetrius, this is, I think a field that you kind of work in and are very familiar with. What is it going to make a difference because it's Kapler? I mean, it did make a difference for the last 28 kids. I mean,
yeah. I don't know, but I think that what happens is as a person, as a man or a woman, and to Dylan's point about the platform, there comes a point like for all of us where you have your line, you have that moment for you, and it doesn't matter if it's a person of color or an ally. Everybody has a line about whatever that thing is, and this thing right now, he's just hit his line. And I think the biggest thing Dylan said was, what we have to do is respect you guys. You and Bill fought for this. You fought for Gabe's right to do this. I will defend it every platform anytime I get to talk. And any one of us, we hit our line. I think Bill hit his line last week. Bill's final thoughts last week. You saw a dude who joined the Sports Crib 3 hours late, right? But when he joined in, he came in and he had something meaningful to say. And that's what it's really about is when you hit your line, whoever you are, whatever your thing is, say it. Say it so that you're true to yourself. If you happen to be a professional athlete or a manager and you have a platform. So to answer your question, sorry, I went Bill Carroll on you. Your question was, will it make a difference? I think everything that everybody does makes a difference to some degree. It doesn't always feel like it, and it might not seem like it, but it does. The fact that we're talking about it and all the it's got to make it. I hope. I might just be that optimist dude. I don't know. I hope it makes a difference. So.
Demetrius, I'm going to whisper this in your ear. I've been saying that for 75 years.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I mean, so do I have to wait another 75? Well, that's a different discussion anyway. Bill, go ahead.
So, ironically, you mentioned Colin Kaepernick. Two men that share a nickname, right? Both of them have the same nickname, Cap. Spelled with K in both cases. I'm sure my friend Demetrius remembers the 57th round draft pick of the Detroit Tigers that we're discussing right now.
Absolutely.
And Gabriel Kapler was a guy who beat the odds, right? I said he's a 57th round draft pick. He beat the odds just to make it to the majors. At one point was minor league player of the year, I think, in 98. Don't quote me on that. Something like that. In his level of baseball. And he's a guy who is a quote-unquote baseball lifer, right? The term baseball lifer gets thrown around a lot. He is, by definition, a baseball lifer. Guy who at one point was managing in the minors, and then the itch was so bad, he retired briefly from managing to unretire as a player, and then later, obviously, go back to managing. Regarding what has been said, and as was said, yes, I hit my line all right. I had about enough of this. And so does it make a difference? What's a beach made out of? A beach is made out of sand. If I remove a grain of sand from the beach, you're not likely to notice it. If I remove 100 grains of sand from that beach, you're not likely to notice it. But if I remove 100 grains of sand every hour, after a while, you will notice it. Yeah. If we all chip away, every single one of us does something, whatever your something is. If you're calling in incessantly to Mitch McConnell's office, like I've been doing the last several days, you don't have to do it that way. Choose whatever you want, but making sure that somebody's answering that phone all hours of day and night in his office. And I mean all hours of day and night. I make no apologies. Or, if your way is, carrying little tiny coffins. I don't know if you guys saw, I guess you probably have seen that there was a local craftsman who was donated his time and work and artisanry to creating personalized little coffins for every one of the children at Uvalde that reflects their personalities. So dinosaurs and
Superman, stuff like that.
You saw it? Okay, what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
One, it's a beautiful thing he's doing. Two, I am very upset that this is something that he has to do, that he's doing. It's a beautiful thing, and I wish I never knew it had to happen. I wish I didn't have to know this beautiful gift he's giving. Yeah. I would give almost anything, quite frankly, to not have knowledge of this, quite frankly. We are broken as a society. We have failed our children. I have talked to my daughter a lot about this, and she knows I actually personally like guns, right? I mean, I joined the Army. I wasn't drafted. I volunteered multiple times, right? Used to yell at us at Ranger School, "You're a triple volunteer, you idiot." You volunteered to be here in the first place. You volunteered for jump school. Now you volunteer for this 60 days of absolute hell. I personally enjoy it. However, I am willing to forego my personal enjoyment of firearms forever if it saves one child. one. It's worth it because that's a child. What are we doing? Okay, so sorry. So yes, we have come to this place where it seems every week we talk about the tragedy of the week club here on the Sports Crib. And so I'll be calling Mitch McConnell's office again after the show, just letting you guys know. You can do whatever it is that your thing is. But if we take enough sands off of the beach, right? If we do it every day, every hour, however often we have to, eventually you'll see a little dip in the shoreline, right? And then eventually it becomes a crater. And eventually the beach is gone if you do it long enough. So we are truly removing grains of sand from the beach one by one. But hell, if that's what we have to do, that's what we have to do. Next person, please.
Chris, I'm going to let you have the floor here.
Are we going with Chris or are we going with Cliff this week? I'm not sure. What do we?
We already got that out of the way a little bit before.
I like Chuck. I like Chuck personally, but I'll go with Chris.
So yeah, I mean, I'll keep it short and sweet, guys. Like, let's get to sports here because I know we're all sick of talking about this. But I mean, I think the big thing, like Dylan said, is just utilizing your platform to get your message across. You know, if you have the platform and the ability to, you know, have extra eyes on you and share your voice and your message, you know, utilize that platform. So I think that's a key thing for him. However he chooses to do that is up to him. I think, you know, have your personal privilege as far as when that comes. I know Jalen Smith and Marcus Smart are both spending the anthem in the locker room. So, you know, however they want to do it is fine, as long as they're utilizing their platform in a positive way.
Good evening, Mr. Scott. How are you doing this evening?
Very good, gentlemen. Thank you for allowing me to join you today.
Good to see you, sir.
We're talking about the protest of the Giants manager of not coming out of the dugout on the field until after the national anthem. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that, you know, it's going to make a difference? Do you think that this is, you know, the same thing washed under? What's your thoughts on it?
Well, I think it just shows that, you know, we're all human, and that in sports and whatever walk you go in and you see something about kids getting killed and you know, it just, especially you go home and look at your loved ones and you're like, come on now, what we can do better than this. And so I'm really, you know, I'm behind him, but there's one thing that kind of, you know, a little chip on the shoulder about it is Mr. Kapler. I mean, look what happened to Kaepernick for trying to do the same thing. And so you kind of see, and again, I applaud the action. I mean, I really think that it's a humanistic thing. It shows that we're all human, that we all bleed the same. And, but I don't think that they're going to do any discipline. I guess, I mean, he's not going to lose his job. He's not going to be suspended. He's not going to be, whereas Kaepernick had to, you know, give up a lot. They say, I hear he's been signed by the Raiders. I don't, I saw like
he had a tryout.
He had a tryout. He hasn't been signed. He hasn't been signed. He just had a tryout.
Oh, okay. Well, so yeah, that's my thoughts. And I see you have the great Einstein here next to me, the great Detroit guru sitting next to me. So greetings. I thought he was ducking me. So
good to see you, Mr. Good to see you, Mr. Scott. Yeah, all right. I don't duck anybody. And for the record, guys, the Tigers beat the Twins 4 out of 5 games in the last few days. So I just wanted to get that out there right out the top. We can go on with the show.
I knew you were going to jump right into that.
I don't want to hijack the show, James. I'm sorry.
I just would like the opportunity to respond to that, to Mr. Einstein. I'd like the opportunity to respond to him. Have you looked at the standings? Have you looked at the standings, Mr. Einstein, where the Minnesota Twins are in first place and the Detroit Tigers are languishing in their normal position near the bottom of the division?
None of that is shocking. I said the Twins would win the division and the Tigers were next year. I said that 2 months ago. We were all there. I said your team was the best team in the division and the Tigers were a year away. I'm not surprised by any of this. I'm just giving you. I'm doing to you what you would do to me if they won 4 out of 5. So.
Thank you, Mr. Genius. You know, I appreciate that.
He means that, guys. That's not sarcasm. He really respects my knowledge.
I might as well poke a bear too. Since Mr. Scott just comes in here with guns blazing.
Right,
Cliff. What about these?
I
love it. Everybody's so bitter, bitter. I was on the other day, and
Mr. Scott, when you miss a week, you don't understand what's
I'm sorry.
going on.
Yeah, you missed the inside joke from last week. So, Mr. Scott, we have a new friend from Boston. His name is Chris Kendrick. Chris. We might call him Chuck. He might go by Cliff. We can't figure it out. Mr. King is picking any C name other than Chris, and that's what we're calling him. So if he says Cliff and you're looking at your screen thinking, who the hell is Cliff? It's Chris. If he says Chuck, it's Chris.
Yep. It's some name with a C, it's me.
Anything with a C, it's Chris. That's what we're laughing about.
Well, we'll get to those.
Dylan, we'll get to you sooner or later, so get ready. It's gonna happen.
Hey, man.
So, Chris, what about those 23 and 27 Red Sox?
Well, I mean, I'm feeling better about the team than I was probably if we talked a month ago, for sure. I think they're going to be playing better than they have been of late. They won 4 of their last, they won 4 series straight. Then they had a 10-game setup against the Orioles, Reds, and the A's. So I was expecting big things there. And since then, they've gone 3 and 4 to start off against the Orioles and Reds. So not thrilled about that start. But Nick Pavetta's looked good lately. Garrett Whitlock hasn't looked as good. But I still had Rafi Devers as my pick for AL MVP. And I got some stats for you boys. He's batting .341 right now with 11 bombs, 21 doubles, and 26 ribbies. He's leading the MLB in total bases with 129, and ranks second in doubles, third in slugging, 7th in average. So, like I said, he's my dark horse for AL MVP. Even though Judge is looking good right now.
I love the numbers.
I know, big numbers guy, Demetrius. You know that. Next, we're looking at. I'm hoping they're above 500 by the end of June. Chris Sale's going to be coming back soon. I think he's got 2 more bullpens, and then he'll start doing rehab. But their big question marks been their bullpen. Still not good. They've blown a league high 12 saves this season. Matt Barnes has been awful. Hansel Robles is injured now, and now they're going bullpen by committee, which is just a concept I can't stand. So once they figure out the closer situation, things will turn around at Boston.
Dylan, what's going on in your neck of the woods there?
Dude, we got the, baseball-wise, got the Tulsa Drillers. Double A. No, I'm just kidding. We're not talking about.
I was like, wait a minute. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. No, bro. You got the wrong podcast. We're not doing the Tulsa Drillers.
Wasn't Odie McDowell a legendary driller? Didn't Odie
exactly. Yes, it was Odie McDowell. What? Yes. Odie McDowell was the greatest player in the history of the Drillers. He's a Drillers legend. Yeah.
Man. I don't know. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of people. You got Ivan Rodriguez. You have.
No, we're not doing Tulsa Drillers, bro. Seriously.
I'm just saying.
That Bill Carroll starting that bullshit early. We ain't doing that.
No, man. There's really not too much going on in my neck of the woods. Just off-season college football stuff happening in Oklahoma. That's like the only
where's that? Who do you roll with pro team wise? Because this is my first time meeting you. Welcome to the show. By the way.
Gotcha.
But who do you roll with in the pros?
Yeah, no, I'm from Louisiana, so I'm a big Saints fan. I pull for the Rangers as well. Closest baseball team to us. Oklahoma City Thunder. And that's about it.
All right. Now I know who to target. Now me and Mr. Scott can get together and stop beating the hell out of each other.
There you go.
Start messing with we're gonna make you the target now. Let's just get on him.
Oh man. So guys, Chris, I might as well come to you. Is Soto going to stay with the Nats or what? Or are they going to get
I think so. I don't think they have it in them to trade him. I mean, from what Mike Rizzo said as the GM, they want to build around him. As a player, he's phenomenal. I have him on my Dynasty fantasy team. So it was a huge pickup for me. He was, a Rookie of the Year runner-up, 3-time top 10 finisher and MVP. So I don't think they'll lose him. He's right now a free agent until 2024. So right now he's 23 years old. So they'll make him 25 then. Looks like he's just going year to year. He's had some nice bumps in salary. I got some numbers again for you boys. He started making $630K in 2020. Then he avoided arbitration, signing 1-year deals now, which is what he's going to do. Made $8.5 million last year and now 17.1 this year. So it looks like, it's a good deal for the Nationals to keep him right now if he's going to keep doing year-to-year deals, which is similar to what Baez did. So I see them keeping him and trying to build around him and, hopefully get some pieces over the next 2 years that'll incentivize him to sign with them once he's a free agent.
Did you say from 600K to 17 mil?
Yeah,
and he's still underpaid.
Yeah, he's still drafted.
And he's still 100%.
That's very similar to what happened to you as the host of the Sports Crib, James.
That's similar to James Kickbump.
Yeah, I found a nice stat on him too. During the COVID year, which the numbers are what they are, he had a 1185 OPS, which is 46th all time in the history of baseball. It was the highest OPS since Pujols.
He was 21, by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The freak.
Yeah,
that's insane. And his ceiling is still so high, for what he can get at 23, where he's at right now. It's insane.
Yeah.
Here's the deal: he turned down 13 years and 350. Yep. That tells you what he thinks of himself, right? Yep. I don't think it makes sense for anybody. If I'm the Nats, I've got him under team control for 2 more years. Why would I trade him now? He's only going to be more valuable next year at the deadline. Yep. They're going to be banging down Mike Rizzo's door. I would have been like, duh, what a dumbass question. There is no incentive to trade him now. He's a former batting champ, and he's only 23. Yeah. You will trade him at some point, Mike Rizzo. Sorry, you're going to, because you're going to have to rebuild. And the pieces you get back for the Soto trade are going to be the centerpiece of the 2027 Nats team or whatever, 2025 Nats team. But not now. I wouldn't do it now. There's no motivation to do it right.
It'll be a topic 2 summers from now is whether he's getting.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Let's talk a little NBA, guys. And by the way, let's see, what is 16-23 in favor of the Warriors. But let's start with you here, Bill. Did the Lakers actually, by hiring Ham, what's your thought? Did they actually play it safe with hiring a young coach? You can always say, well, he was too young, or half of the Lakers are older than he is.
I love that face.
I think he played it smart, I think is what I would say. I think Darvin Ham is probably the right person for the job. Because at some point, this team is going to have to admit that this is not the team, right? They may be able to try, I hope they don't, but they may decide to try to run it back one more year with the same basic core of talent, which I just think would be a terrible mistake. The problem is they're hamstrung. The contracts are difficult to move. They've already shed so much of their good young talent to put this monstrosity together. I don't envy Darvin Ham, quite frankly. He's got a tall task ahead of him. So one is I hope they're going to be patient, which is not something the organization has been known for. But I hope they're going to be patient. And 2, I hope they're going to be creative. I hope they're going to say, okay, what team could actually use, one of our – because the easiest pieces to move are not the ones that you're thinking, right? They're not the big names. They still have some somewhat valuable veteran, but not too veteran glue guys, as I'm known for saying, that they could use to bring back younger players. Yes, I know. To bring back younger players or even draft picks. But,
Elmer's is not coming to the Lakers, Bill.
The solution is not big and splashy. The solution is to start chipping away at this current construction of the team and see if you can get younger and more athletic and what the heck, healthier.
Hold on, Bill. Just let me ask you a question. Who is the glue guy for the Lakers?
That is one of the best questions you've ever asked.
I mean, you
That means he
brought it
doesn't have
up.
an answer. That means he doesn't have
Now they don't have so many of the players they probably should have, as we talked about. But if you could,
No. I want the guy. I want the guy that Bill Carroll would say, okay, these are my guys, and I want this guy to bring them all together.
right. So amongst the players, I think makes sense if you're trying to, you could get something back for, and I like them as players. Malik Monk is actually a good young player who doesn't play enough.
Yeah.
Quick. I don't
That's
like
the exact guy you can't trade. That's the exact dude you can't get rid of. For all the reasons you just said.
Right, for all the reasons I said.
Everybody else is on Social Security.
But
And
the
you
problem
wanna
is
get
you
rid of
can't. Nobody will take them.
Bill's trying to be nice. Bill's trying to be nice tonight. I don't know what the hell's going on.
I'm not
He's
really
trying to be.
that's what I'm trying to be nice.
Cut it
I'm
out,
trying
Bill.
to who you can actually move, right? I'm trying to be realistic. Not so much not realistic.
Okay.
So assuming you're going to build around, okay, right. Ideally, you build around Malik Monk, but you can't get rid of. In a better world, you'd be able to move the old guys, but who's going to take them, right?
I'm sorry. I love this.
Chris,
It's
But
going
the Lakers, see what people overlook. What happened? It was hurt. Davis was out all that time. You know, all this COVID. And all,
overlooking
if
that.
they could stay healthy,
what was hurt, Mr. Scott? What was hurt, Mr. Scott? His ego? He
they
certainly. I
would've
mean,
made the playoffs.
I am factoring that into my computations. People who get hurt when they're young do not tend to get hurt less when they age. So that is known to other teams in the NBA also. They also have this information.
Chris, bring some sense into this.
Please.
Well, I mean, they're a mess. I think we've talked about how much of a mess the Lakers are. I think it's like a running theme right now. So, I mean, if you want to bring Darvin Ham in, his first gig, give him something. I feel terrible for the guy as this being his first gig.
Yeah.
You'd like a little bit of a better situation to come into instead of a $45 million Russell Westbrook just shit brick sitting there not knowing what to do with it. And you got LeBron running the team. So who knows what's going to happen with this squad. I feel bad for the guy. Hopefully they give him at least a second year and not just kick him out the door after a bad next year, because I don't know what the Lakers are going to do because they don't have any options other than trying to move the team somewhere else maybe.
So,
Dylan, you guys want Russ back?
You know, like we couldn't do any worse, right? So
No, yes, you
if
could.
we get
Yes,
the
you
guy
could.
we love back, sure, whatever. You know, it ain't gonna. You know, no, not for $45 million. No.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, Dylan, I'm making a phone call to you now.
No, man, no. Like we love him, right? He was great here, but once he got to Washington, we were just kind of like, all right, well, we appreciate you. All right.
I remember. First, I got to jump in. Bill, you slipped a hamstring thing in there early. I caught it. It didn't get past me when you're talking about the Lakers and the hamstring. Here's the thing. I'm just going to be honest. I'm not going to be nice like Bill. Hot, garbagey dumpster fire. Those are the things that come to my mind, right? And I'm going to pay homage to Mr. Scott because he thinks I'm mad at him, but I'm not. The problem with that team is the guy we affectionately call taking my talents. Is that what we call him? Take my talents. Take my talents is the problem there. They're in a place now where, and this whole did they play it safe presumes they had a list of dudes in line wanting that job, and they did not. They did not. So I don't think they played it anything except anybody like Mueller. And I don't feel bad for Darvin Ham because I saw the contract and I know what his direct deposits going to look like for a minute. So now I don't feel bad. He gets a job. There's only 32 of them. It's a mess. It's going to be a mess for the foreseeable. And somebody's got to be the coach during the mess. And if you're Darvin Ham, you get that on your resume. You're cashing really nice checks. And then 3 years from now, when you want a real job with a real team, you will have some lessons learned from that hot garbage dumpster fire you dealt with in Los Angeles. That's what this really is. They need somebody to ride them through the mess. You got to see what somebody will give you for Anthony Davis. You got to consider trading LeBron. Nobody wants to say that, You got to do it. I know he wants to wait until Bronny comes in the league to see where he wants to play. God, don't let the Pistons draft Bronny. I would have to stop watching basketball. I would be done. I'd be a Timberwolves fan. Just be calling Mr. Scott every day. What's up, buddy? What's going on with our team? I have no way. But the Lakers are in a situation that is so hard to fix. It is the special kind of mess that Bill tried his best to find a nice way to tell them how to proceed, and Bill couldn't come up with shit. He just couldn't, because that's really what the Lakers situation is. It's that bad, and I don't feel bad about it at all. I'm thrilled. I'm not upset at all.
One thing you said, Demetrius, was you mentioned like trying to you possibly trading LeBron James, right? But to think about it this way, no coach is safe with LeBron James on the team.
Exactly.
The only anomaly is Spoelstra because they actually won 2 titles. Exactly. And it's like you have, who was it? Ty Lue, and then you have
Woodson.
And then who was the coach that won it in the bubble? I already forgot his name.
Not Katz.
Vogel.
Vogel.
Yeah, Vogel. Yeah, Vogel. It's
yeah.
like they win the championship and then they're out, and it's just like I feel like for him, like what you said, Demetrius, this dude's getting paid. And I bet on the outside looking in, we're probably like, no coach is safe, but he's looking and thinking, we have LeBron, we have Anthony Davis, we're stuck with Russell Westbrook.
He called Citibank and said, "What was that deposit?" Oh, okay,
exactly.
He got
right?
that call from Citibank, and he was good.
But what about that small percentage that somehow they just turn it on and they make him look like a genius? Like,
no, zero.
You could take that risk too with the paycheck. Why not?
Take Snapchat.
Very high reward.
Snapshots of it to your friends.
Exactly. He's just snapping that app, that Citibank app, sending it to his boys back in Saginaw, Michigan. I know his neighborhood. I know where he's from.
Shooting out a couple of
He's
boys have a drink on me.
Chris, last week we talked about moving some of the stars for the Utah Jazz, but what about Quinn Snyder? Is it time for him to move on? He's been there, 8 years now?
Yeah, he's been there 8 years. I mean, we've talked about the Jazz a little bit here too. I think we're all on the feeling that you either keep, Donovan Mitchell or you just blow the whole thing up. So if they want to see what I would if they're going to want to build around Donovan Mitchell, I'd say, hey, is Quinn Snyder your coach, the guy you want to have here? And if he's not, then, let Quinn Snyder move on. I mean, he had a good run, but it doesn't seem like he can get over that hump with this squad. But if they want to blow it up and keep him for some sort of stability moving through the first couple of years of a rebuild, then keep him. But I think it's kind of 50 one way, half a dozen the other, whatever it is.
Yeah.
What do you
Total mixed metaphor.
It's late, boys. We talk about this.
We know it is. That's true. That's true.
What's your thoughts on Mr. Snyder there, Dylan?
Yeah. So
you say Dylan or Bill?
I think he said Dylan.
I think he said Billin.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. But no, I'm with Chris on this one. It's it's like he definitely hasn't been able to get over the hump, but he's beat the hell out of my Thunder plenty of times. So of course I have a reason to be kind of salty about it. But he honestly hasn't. And with Donovan Mitchell, Rudy Gobert, what Chris was saying, either blow it up or keep him. But you're going to have to get rid of Gobert because, there's definitely friction in between all that. But I do think it's probably time for them to move on because I think it would be best for both sides. If I think the Jazz would benefit, if they did blow it up, because they have a lot of assets that they can get, a few people they can get a lot of, draft picks and stuff for. So I think it would be best if they kind of let him go, trade Mitchell. I think the Heat would be a perfect, fit for him. They're looking for another key player, stuff like that. But I would say kind of let everyone move on because it's been 8 years of them just not being able to make it.
Pistons got their eyes on anybody over there, Demetrius?
The Pistons would certainly, honestly, as weird as it sounds, they'd likely be more interested in Rudy Gobert than Donovan Mitchell. We are solid with young wings, right? And we're about to get another one at number 5. I think the guy that's hard to find in the league is Rudy Gobert. I think that's the bigger problem. We're getting okey doke by Utah. Quinn Snyder's not the problem. Quinn Snyder's a good coach, right? It is their 2 stars don't mesh well. Might be
Exactly.
personality, but we're seeing it on the floor. And I think that's what Dylan was talking about. I think you got to move Rudy Gobert. You can get a pretty good haul back for Rudy Gobert. Because, I mean, he's still top 5 defensive player of the year kind of person. He could do different things. I think the Pistons would give them a nice package of young players for Rudy Gobert if they can make it all work. So that's all I think they need to do. I don't know if they need to get rid of the coach. I think if you trade Gobert, you get a nice package back. You're still in the Western Conference, unfortunately, but you can immediately become competitive again. Maybe I'm missing something. He's got 2 years left on that deal.
Yep.
I think he and Danny Ainge have a good relationship, right? I think he's the CEO of basketball operations out there now. I think they'll work out the Quinn Snyder piece. They got bigger fish to fry. They need to move Gobert.
Bill, what do you think there?
Yeah. So it's always interesting because I remember, hearing about this kid from Mercer Island, Washington, who could, 6'2" and could easily 360. And it's like, he's a white dude?
Right. You found out he's a white dude.
Yeah. So I've been following Quinn Snyder since he was 17 years old. So definitely another feel old moment for me. But one, I think he's an excellent coach. And I think that it would be, it's one of those things where you don't know what you've got till it's gone. Who's the coach they would get that would be better?
Exactly. Great question.
Right? Everyone wants to fire coaches. Then I ask them, well, who are you getting who's better? Then someone's like, I mean,
Darvin Ham.
Volker's looking for a job.
Hey, Bill, it's like, okay. We're making your point for you, Bill. We're actually making your point for you.
And as I love when I get to agree with Demetrius, as was stated, team chemistry and team composition is a real issue. And you can fire as many coaches as you want. That's not going to make Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert play together better. I mean, I don't know if Phil Jackson in his prime. Well, maybe Phil Jackson in his prime figure out a way to like mind voodoo those guys or whatever. But that's the list. The list is Phil Jackson in his prime, who could probably somehow trick those guys into thinking they could play with each other or whatever it is he does. Makes them read Sun Tzu in the offseason or whatever the heck it is he's doing. But that's it. Like, unless you have a time machine and you can get Phil Jackson in his prime to coach your team, then the obvious solution is to move one of those two players. And as Demetrius pointed out, the one that is probably the one you could more easily move of the two is probably Gobert. I would love to somehow see the Bucks be able to do something and get Donovan Mitchell, because I think that would be the thing that puts them over the top. And I'm a big Giannis Antetokounmpo fan, but the more realistic of the two options, I'll say it that way, is to move Gobert. And I think there's a lot of teams that would actually line up.
Yeah,
I think Mr. Scott's Timberwolves would be a great landing spot for Donovan Mitchell. I think he would go to Minneapolis. You may agree. I don't know.
But I think Utah. But I think Utah. I mean, the coach, I think, is part of the problem. I mean, if you think there was a period of time when the coach was out, and I can't remember who the assistant was. It was like, I don't know if the coach had COVID or something happened, and they went on a nice winning streak because he was using his bench. And I think sometimes coaches come in with their system, and they want you to do this as opposed to coaching the players you have. And I think that's really Quinn Snyder. He just seems to be, to me, a little bit too rigid, not being able to look he's got some bench guys that assistant coach, I can't think of the one guy, a big man. He got a lot of playing time, but then he went right back to the bench and never played anymore once Quinn came back. So I hate to see young guys get broke up like that, because when we had Marbury and we had Garnett, I hated to see that break up. I mean, I thought that could be something that could build on.
And the legendary Wally Zerbiak joined them, right, for the big three.
Wally Zerbiak.
So that was a big three. That was a big three here. You know, we would beat, all the teams in our division. We would, when we had Garnett, teams like the Pistons, they were just, just fodder for us. We would beat them for fun.
I'm going to let him have that one for free, guys. I don't want to hold down the podcast. I'm going to let him have it free.
Now, but I do want to ask this, guys. Now, earlier during the season, and even now, we talk about there is no real number 5 anymore. It's a kind of a combination. But then when you look at what teams are going for during the off season, there's 3 names that usually come up, which is Gobert. What's the young kid from Houston? Woods. Is it Woods?
Christian Wood. Yeah.
Christian Wood.
And now you guys are talking about Gobert. I mean, has the importance of that tall position, the big man position, have we come full circle with it, or are we still? I mean, come on.
I'm gonna jump in and be quick. You're using different terms. You're saying big man and then tall man. It's a big difference,
okay.
Right? All the guys you're talking about are tall, but they're athletic as hell, and they're stretch guys. Really, you hear the term rim protector, right? That's a skill that we're talking about. A rim protector, guy who alters shots, whatnot. That old school big man, Patrick Ewing, ain't coming back. He ain't coming back.
Right.
Not gonna happen. None of those guys you talking about. What are we talking about? Ayton, Christian
Ayton.
Wood. Or no, these are not traditional fives from back in the Bam. Oh my God, no, these are athletic freaks.
Walking through that door. Nate Thurman isn't coming back. James.
Exactly. Yeah. So I get your point, but I think we're looking at guys that are tall, and you're using the term big man, and I don't think it's a real fit. These guys are athletes. These guys are probably guys who were 6'5" in college. They were playing guard in high school. And then they had growth spurts, and now they're 6'10", 6'11" with 7-foot wingspans, but they can still dribble and stretch the floor and run like crazy.
So basically, we have 1, 2, 3.
Oh, there's 4s. There's true 4s. Robert Williams is a true 4. The Pistons have a kid, Isaiah Stewart. He's a true 4. I think Karl Anthony Towns is a true 4. I don't even think he's a 5. I think he's a 4. He's a stretch 4.
I agree.
Right? We have 4s. We have 4s in the league. We don't have any. A true 5? I'm gonna have to think. I don't even know. Who am I? Am I missing somebody?
Maybe Steven Adams, but he's not even really that good.
Exactly. Yeah.
I
can't think of a guy who I would literally put a 5 on him. Not off the top of my head.
No.
But you don't need him now. The game is different. The game is just expanded out toward the 3 line.
It's just fast and
super fast. You got to be able to cover the pick and roll. You got to get out on the perimeter because your guy, although he's 6'11", might be jacking up a 3, right? It is a different kind of game. So, I don't think it's a true 5. Like I said, literally nobody's coming to my mind.
So I get it. Where Giannis is practicing his 3-point shot. That tells me everything I need.
Joking. I mean,
Jokic. Okay, Jokic. There you go. See, I don't even know. I would probably call Jokic a 4. A 4. I still think Jokic is a 4.
Well,
he's probably the closest thing, though. Jokic might be.
Well, I would say, he's just like what you were talking about. Like, he doesn't look like it, but Jokic is an athletic freak. He really is.
If that dude got in shape, he'd be scary. If he had Planet Fitness for a couple of weeks, he'd be scary.
Whatever he's doing, it works.
It's working. I don't know. I'll just shut up. He can pass Planet Fitness and go to Whataburger. He's fine. It's working.
What's your thoughts? I mean, there is no more big man in basketball.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like we were saying, it's just such a fast league now, and the transition game, the shooting game, you just need to be able to either roll off a pick, get to your guy, help your man out. There's just so much speed in the game now that having that big man inside who can rim protect isn't as valuable as it was in the 90s or the early 2000s, when Shaq and you had Yao and guys like that who are just big men in the paint, eating fouls, getting in the line, stuff like that. Those days are just unfortunately done, and like we said, it's just a fast league, athletic league now that you just need to be quick.
Yeah, look at the finals. Who's a 5 in the finals?
With all the threes.
Okay, say what?
With all the threes, when you miss a 3, the other team always gets the rebound.
But
what
is Zion?
You miss a 3, the other team gets the rebound. Yeah. So I mean, it's like. Yeah, it is
a different game. It's different. But rebounds are longer, though. It sounds weird, but because of the shots that are being selected now, the rebounds are longer. That's why guards are getting more rebounds now, and it's all just like the game has evolved.
Also, across the game, I feel like there's just a lack of hustle on the defensive end rebounding, or at least following your shot. That just doesn't really exist anymore.
Exactly.
So
that's Mr. Scott's point, really, right there. I don't think it's as much about the build of 4s and 5s. It is lazy. That's hard work. That's hustle, and we don't have as much of that in the game as we used to.
What is Zion?
It hurt, injured. I don't know.
Not a basketball player right
now. A really nice highlight reel. I love his practice dunks. He does some between the legs 360s in practice, and it's great stuff he can't do in a game ever. I don't know. I don't have anything against the kid. I think it's his body is not meant to play long in this league. Somebody said, I'm not going to take credit. On draft night, a guy said, Ja Morant is built to play 12 years in the league, and Zion's built to play 3. And I can't remember who the guy was. I feel like his name is Nick Wright. I think he was on a Fox guy.
Nick Wright. That sounds like
Nick
something
Wright.
He would have said.
I feel like it was Nick Wright. And I remember thinking, like everybody else, what the hell's Nick Wright talking about? Now I'm looking back like, oh, he might have had a point. It is his body is just not built to play long in this league.
Physics is a real thing.
When you blow out a shoe in college, I mean, that's your kind of like, you need to work on something here.
And then they blame Nike, and then Nike comes out and is like, "Oh, well, we made a stronger shoe." It's like, no, the dude's 300 pounds. Like,
We've made 50 million of these shoes and never had this happen. And then this guy does it, and it's the shoe.
Yep.
Right. And I want to nominate "Physics is a Thing" as the saying of the night. I feel like I'm going to use it at least three times a night. It's coming.
Physics is a thing.
Physics is a thing.
What's your thoughts on Zion, Mr. Scott?
Oh, I had to find something.
We'll come back. We can come back.
You didn't go to your physics book on us, did you?
I think he's looking up Zion's like advanced numbers in the 25 games.
Yeah,
looking up his shoe size.
Yeah, you know, he's like a Greg Oden. He's like a Greg Oden, one of these kind of people that, you know, their size. He seems to be, he's a washout. I mean, I don't know what they can do with him. I saw the dunks. It was, you know, I mean, he's 300 and some pounds dunking. I guess if you look at it that way, it's impressive. But as far as getting on a basketball court, I just don't see that anytime soon.
Well, guys, let's see. It's Golden State still has a 7-point lead here. What do you guys? Everybody's, you know, kind of talking about this new duo, Tatum and Brown versus the old duo of Clay and Steph. What's your thoughts on that, Dylan?
You know, yes, it's Tatum and Brown. You know, emphasize Tatum. You know, he's definitely going to be one of the top players in the league, if not already there, right? I think just like we were talking about with Juan Soto, right? Like how young he is, with how young Jason Tatum is. It's kind of scary to see how good this kid can actually be, you know, with the ceiling there. But I don't see with Thompson and Curry right now. I don't see, especially Draymond in that. You know, I hope for a good series. You know, I hope for maybe like a 4-2 series. But I think, you know, Curry and Thompson are still going to be here for a while, for sure, especially with the way the game's played and not having to really, you know, get fouled very often. Their bodies aren't going to take a lot of shots. I see them being around for a while. But Tatum and Brown, you know, if they can get someone like Draymond, I can see the Celtics being, you know, right back here again real soon for sure.
Mr. Scott.
Yeah, I like Golden State now that they have all hands on deck. You know, they're deep. They have, you know, Clay is really rounding himself into shape now. He's that other, you know, dynamic duo. You almost can't call them a Batman and a Robin because they're both, you know, at their games, two of the best at what they do. And like I say, Draymond, bench being healthy, a lot of veterans off the bench. They get Iguodala and Porter, and I mean it goes real deep on their bench. So I think Boston, they're definitely up and coming. You know, the East was a tough, grueling thing to get through Milwaukee. You know, so I mean I really give it to them. But you know, I think that this is kind of be almost like Mr. Scott against Demetrius type of a thing. And I think that Golden State is going to go ahead and, take care of business.
Yeah, all right, you can't go to anybody else. I'm going next. I don't care what you say. So ironically, we don't agree. No, and this is not to blow smoke to Chuck, Cliff, or Chris. But you guys know me and you know my team, whether it's the Bad Boys, there you go, whether it's the Bad Boys or the 04 Pistons, that should have been 04 and 05 Pistons. I'm about defense, and Boston was the best defense team in the league. So I just want to make three things. This is what I think. I think, one, we often get caught up in what we've seen, and we don't see the new thing until it punches us in the face. So I think you guys are about to recognize, and this might be hyperbolic, I don't know, Al Horford might need to be talked about going to the Hall of Fame. We're about to find out. That's how highly I think of Al Horford. I think there's a legitimate conversation about Al Horford possibly being a Hall of Famer. We are about to find out. Are we after dark? We're close.
This series will define it, yeah.
Right, and we're about to find out how real assholes play basketball. Marcus Smart is not a nice person, guys. He's not. And so I don't know that Steph or Clay or anybody, they've never seen him. I mean, you could call him a dog, call him a beast, whatever. I just don't think he's a nice person, right? And he's a really talented basketball player. Him, and then I talked about Robert Williams earlier. He's the new 5. When you've got him and Horford, you don't need a 5. You got 2 athletic 4s that can do everything, that can guard almost anybody on the floor. And if you got 2 of them and they're both healthy, and you got an asshole and Smart, and oh by the way, Jason Tatum is that dude. Bill and I can officially sign that document. He is that dude. And Jaylen Brown's close to being that dude. I'm sorry. Boston's the best defense team in the league. Golden State might be top 3 or 4. I don't know where they rank.
2.
Boston, they're 2. Okay. Boston's number 1. Right. I don't think Golden State has seen 7 times in 10 days any asshole like Marcus Smart. And I think he's going to be a difference maker. I think Al Horford's about to stamp his Hall of Fame situation. I think Boston's going to win this series. And the biggest thing, all that stuff I just said, it's the coach. I love their coach. That's who I love more than everybody else is their coach. Their coach is a rock star. We just don't know it yet. So those are all my reasons that I think we've seen Golden State. We know what they can do. Oh, they can jack threes. Boston is going to make them work all day, every day, in every single game, every single possession. They're never going away. And I do. I like Boston.
Okay. Can I add something or ask Demetrius something?
Sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no. So 100% agree with you. Boston, like you said, like they're going to make them work, but has Boston gone up against a team that passes and makes the defense move like Golden State has?
Well, hold on, Dylan. First of all, do you see that guy sitting there?
Yeah, I'm just gonna hand it to him. I'm just gonna hand it to him. I appreciate you asking me the question.
Did you see the shirt that he wore?
Oh, my bad, man. My bad.
No, you didn't know. The dude that question should go to. Call him whatever you want. I'm gonna go with Cliff. Cliff can have that question right now.
Yeah, so Demetrius hit on a bunch of the things that I love about the Celtics. Number 1 being their defense. So of course, not a homer pick. I think they're going to win. I'd love them to win in 6. I think it's going to go 7 games. But, I'll just throw some stats at you guys because that's just what I'm about. So right now, the Celtics have the highest postseason scoring margin and the stingiest defense. Opponents are shooting during the regular season. They shot 33.9% from 3. In the postseason, they're shooting 31.7. So their defenses have been even better in the postseason against catch and shoot teams like Golden State. They had the second best defense against them, just allowing teams to shoot 34%. So I think their defense is going to shine in this series against a team like Golden State. You're worried about the pick and rolls, but I feel like Boston has that defensive strength to have the help defense and the quickness to move laterally, to get around those screens, get guys like Steph. Not thrilled with the numbers right now tonight because Steph does have 21 points, but Golden State's only up 4 points. Right now, Boston has 8 guys with at least 4 points on the board. So right now they're playing a great team game. They are down, but when you have Steph already with 21 points and 6 threes and still be only a 4-point game, I'm thrilled with how they're playing right now because especially the experience is another thing that's Golden State has heavily favored. The number is they have 123 finals games played under their belt compared to the 0 for the Celtics. So Experience is on their side, but I love the Celtics team. I think this is their transcendent moment. They've kind of gone through the gauntlet this year, going through Kyrie and Durant, and going through Giannis, and going through Butler, and the Heat, who everyone said was the best team in the East pretty much all year. Now to get to this point and, get to that next level against a team like Golden State, who has been that standout team for pretty much the last decade. So I think this is that moment. Even if things don't work out for the Celtics, it's a great learning experience to go against a team like Golden State in the finals, and can only be just a great thing for them moving forward.
Yeah.
Chris, here's the thing that bothers me, though, and Demetrius touched on it, and I've heard a couple of arguments about this, and this is about Al Horford. Why does his career depend upon whether or not the Celtics win? If the numbers are there, Al Horford. I mean, I'm not.
It always comes down to
I'm
ring.
not. I'm not against Al Horford. I understand that, but hey, he can always take
not
Charles
rings.
Barkley's place on TNT.
No, Charles Barkley was different though. Transcendent. If you're transcendent, this is an easy conversation. If you're really, really good, in Bill Carroll's Hall of Fame are very good already, and then you get to do this. Now you got to get talked about in the other room.
Yeah,
Now
exactly. Rings the thing, and for a guy like Al too, this is his second stint in Boston, and his first stint when we signed him as a free agent. I think a lot of people feel like he didn't really live up to that contract a little bit. He was called Average Al pretty much in Boston. What was the nickname for him? So now to have him come back and be sort of that veteran, that foundation for this young squad to kind of rely on and have that presence in the locker room has just been essential to the team this year. Like, I saw one of the pictures on Twitter this year. I don't know if you guys see the memes. It's the one of the Ninja Turtles where they're all babies and Shredder's big, and it was Al, and then the little turtles were like Jason Tatum, JB, Marcus Smart, and Rob Williams, and then now they're all big, and then Splinter's a little bit smaller. So him guiding them, and now them guiding him, hopefully to a ring.
Bill, what's your thoughts?
Well, as a big Al Horford fan, and once again, feel old moment, I remember when his father was in high school, Tito Horford. So another tremendous feel old moment. But I'm a big Al Horford fan, and I'm not a fan of the Celtics per se, but I do like the way they play basketball. That being said, I think they're going to come up a little bit short this year. Because you asked the question this way. You said of the duo. And of the duo, I think the Celtics would win. If it was a 2-on-2 between, the two players you named for the Celtics and the two players you named, if it was just Steph, right, and just Clay versus just Marcus and was it Marcus Smart and
Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum.
It was Jaylen Brown, that's right. And it was Jaylen Brown. That's right. It was Jaylen Brown and Tatum. I think the Celtics win. The issue is, and both teams are pretty darn deep, but the Golden State
tie game.
Yes, right. And they may win this game. But as you said, I think
not going away. That's for
I'll
sure.
be piping in scores as we talk them.
I don't think it's going away. I think it goes 7 games, as I said before.
Yeah.
But I like Golden State in a 7th game, partially because of what was said about how many times they've been there, or whatever. And I love both coaches, and one coach gets to go home, to Neil Long. So I have complex feelings about him. But
It's after dark, bro. It's after dark. Bro.
Oh, okay. But that's a very lucky man. He's winning no matter what happens.
He's a winner, right?
That man is winning on so many levels. But I think that in Game 7, I have a slight edge right now, at least for Steve Kerr. I think that he comes up with the solution to this tremendous, sticky, annoying bunch of Celtics. That allows them to pull out I think probably an uglier Game 7 than people are anticipating. Because normally people associate this Golden State team with looking like that Diego era, like Argentinian national team, right? Where it's just the beautiful game, right? And everything's always moving and everybody's in the right position and the angles are always perfect and things like that. And they do that sometimes, but they won't be able to do that here. They're going to have to gut this one out, but I think they will. I think both teams are going to show they belong. Like as was pointed out, people sort of doubted, including me, doubted the Celtics, right? I thought the Celtics would make it to Giannis, and I thought Giannis would be, the Rubicon they could not cross, and I was wrong. And then they faced the Heat, and I thought that, well, they had a nice run, and it'll go 7 games, it'll be a tough one, but the Heat will somehow get it out. and I was wrong. So I've been wrong twice already on the Celtics, and this would be a good time for me maybe to stop doing that, but I'm not quite ready. And so if I'm wrong on them, I'll be wrong on them a third time. But I think they're going to once again make it like very difficult for Golden State. I think they have to really work hard to get it. But I think they'll really earn a 7th game victory over the Celtics team. But the Celtics are going to be back, as was pointed out. The best teams, the best players on this team are some of the youngest. So this is a team we'll be seeing for a long time.
And then just to hit on your point there, Bill, just another little fact I have there. The Celtics are the only team to have a winning record in Steve Kerr's era as a Warriors head coach. And they're 6-2 in their last 8 games against him.
Which means he now has a sample size.
So dropping numbers. He's dropping numbers on us.
That's right up Demetrius' alley. He's another numbers guy.
Love statistics. Nothing like statistics. Love it.
Well, guys, we should have a lot of enjoyment out of this next section here because we're going to talk the NFC North. And there might be a little banter in between Mr. Scott and Mr.
If you haven't deduced it, Dylan, Mr. Scott is a Minnesota guy.
I've gathered that.
Right. Clearly, you know where my loyalties lie. It is not personal.
Forward to this.
It is not personal. I love the guy, and his trash talk game is strong, so we can be friends. We can be friends.
Yeah, I keep hearing about this matchup, so I'm looking forward to it.
And Mr. Scott brings the old school, back on the doo-wop in the corner days, but
it's age shaming you, bro.
No, hey.
You can't though, right? We know who the oldest dude on the screen is. We know who the oldest dude is.
Let's start a conversation about rap music if you really want to.
Right. You want to give Mr. Scott heat. Suggest that rap is really music, and the podcast ends right there.
Well, so they throw darts at me. I'm used to it. I mean, they throw darts at me. I'm used to it.
It's all love, Mr. Scott.
Yeah,
it's all love.
The old school is the best school. It will continue to be, and the young ones need to learn from the old school, and then their school will be better. And so, the Vikings. I'm looking.
Hold on, Mr. Scott. We're gonna take this in order here. We're gonna start with the Packers.
Okay. You got to start with the genius. Oh, you have to get the genius. You have to get Einstein first.
Save me for last. Save me for last. Cherish my stuff. Save me for last.
We're starting with the Packers because right now they still have Aaron Rodgers, and most people consider him. After yesterday, they might consider him a very good golfer too. But but right now, as a quarterback, I think he is the number one quarterback in your division. I believe. Now, I might be wrong, but anyway. So what do you think, guys? The Packers, they make Bill. I guess I might as well start with you on this one since we're going to talk about DBs. What do you think about them making Jaire the highest salary DB in the league?
Smart. I think it was smart. I mean, first of all, he deserves it. So much of what they can do and do on defense is because, the term shutdown corner is a term I frankly don't subscribe to. You won't ever hear me use the term because it's not a real thing. It doesn't really exist. You can make a team pay enough and make it so costly that they don't want to go your way. And that's what Jaire Alexander is able to do. It's the cost-benefit analysis says it's not worth it to throw to his side of the field very often. But shutdown means that you can't be thrown against at all, and that's not a real thing. There's no corner ever born who you couldn't throw against at all. The best of the best just made it so that you didn't want to do it, or it was maybe, like I said, costly or unwise. But he allows them to do all the other things they want to do in their defense, right? It means that you can do other things with your safeties. It means that you can, rotate and slide things away from him consistently. And he does almost everything well. He's a good tackler. He can play zone. He can play man. You can move him over the slot. He can play net. He can do everything essentially you would ever need a corner to do. And he does it all at a high level. He's, I think, a top 12 defensive player. I didn't say defensive back. I think he's a top 12 defensive player in the NFL. He's worth every penny.
Mr. Scott, are you looking forward to that matchup against your Vikings?
Yeah, I think it should be real interesting. I like what the Vikings are doing. I like the new coach, the new GM. Even though I know Bill is so enamored with analytics and numbers and computer, I'm more of a let's play football. Let's hit. Let's block. Let's tackle. Let's run the ball. And with Evan Cook, we have Matson, and we've made some strategic moves. I don't see anybody really in the division. I mean, Green Bay's lost enough where I just don't think I look for the Vikings to really take this division. I'm not going to say anything about Detroit. I'll let Demetrius talk about his Detroit. I know they've made some. I know they've attempted to make some moves over the years.
We're going to talk about it one school. We're going to talk one team at a time, Mr. Scott. One team at a time.
Okay,
right now.
yeah. But I mean, that's those are 2 victories we count, and so I don't think Chicago is going to really. They're rebuilding.
We're going to talk about.
He's just covering all the teams at once. Let him get all this shit out the way, so that then we can bring some logic and reasoning to this damn podcast. I'm fine with him getting all the bullshit out right now. It's fine with me. We're after dark. I'm good. It's fine.
Yeah,
I'll get to mine later.
I look for the Vikings to sit atop this division, and who knows from there. I mean, it really looks like. I mean, when everybody's critical.
Mr. Scott, did the Vikings trade Kirk Cousins between last week and the time we came on today? I'm just wondering. I mean, because I'm wondering.
If you look at the numbers of Cousins. I mean, he's right up there in the top 5.
If you look at the numbers, when's the last time Cousins threw a touchdown within the last minute of the game?
I mean. Through the years,
are you chewing Doublemint? Is that Doublemint gum that you're chewing over there, Mr. Scott?
Single digits of interceptions. I mean, you look at it, he's been very efficient, and with this running game, this new coaching regime, Danielle Hunter's back. They're doing a lot of things on the defense. I mean, I think it's a done deal for the Vikings this year. I really do. I'm going all in, and I usually don't because something always happens with the Vikings. But this year, I think they at least are going to get the Central Division. I think that's pretty much a given.
Whoa, Chris, what do you think about that? I mean, do you see Jefferson catching 2 touchdowns? Against the Packers or 1?
I mean, I think if we're jumping to the Vikings now, then yeah, I think a big year for Justin Jefferson. I think
I was talking about the coverage there.
Oh, so you're talking about Jaire
versus
We're off the rails now, Chuck. Do whatever you want to do.
I'm trying to pull it back in, boys. I'm trying to reel it in. So yeah, I mean, having him there when you have guys like Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen for the Vikings, we'll see what the Bears want to do with their wide receiving core, but it seems like, the NFC North are going to be throwing the ball around. So having a lockdown corner like Jaire to, keep one side of the field on lock is key for them.
What do you think, Dylan?
Well, here's what I know.
Wait, did you say Bill or Dylan? I keep getting confused.
I'll let Bill go. He's got his thoughts ready to go.
Go ahead, Bill. Yeah, I want to hear both of you guys. I'm getting confused. So go ahead.
Here's what I know. I know that it's very easy to move on and say, oh, this team that's owned this division for so long is now no longer, they've lost the deed, right? It's time to move on. It's easy to say. It's a little harder to do. And did they lose things? Yes. I mean, mostly Devontae Adams, and I love Devontae Adams. I think there's a couple of teams that remember the best wide receiver in all of the league. That having been said, they're getting faster. This is going to be a faster group of receivers, the fastest group of receivers perhaps they've ever fielded in the Aaron Rodgers era. Now I think of it. They're going to be bigger on the outside than they've been. This might be the largest group of receivers they've fielded in the Aaron Rodgers era. So they're faster and bigger than they have been ever since they've had Aaron Charles Rodgers at quarterback. their defense is still going to be a very good defense. This is still going to be a stingy defense that's going to force mistakes. They're still going to get strip sacks. They're still going to punch the ball out. They're still going to be hard to throw against and fairly difficult to run against. I still think this is probably a 12-5 football team. Now, is it possible that another team wins more than 12 games? It's not impossible. I'll say that much, but I'll need to see it first. So I'm not ready quite yet to completely allow the purple rain to begin in the NFC. But like I said, I'll take a look at a wait and see attitude. I do think that they are the best two teams at the moment, but I think, as I'm sure it's more as Demetrius will say, I think the gap is narrowing between the top two teams and at least one other team in the division.
Dylan, you waited patiently.
Yeah, and I agree with what Bill said, especially the latter part of the gap is closing in between. I know we're going to be talking about another team later. That last podcast we talked about, we were talking about division winners and stuff like that. And I think Demetrius is going to be happy to hear what I say about that. But, again, like especially this year, I think Aaron Rodgers, and exactly what Bill said too, is they're going to have those receivers. They're going to be fast and they're big, and I think a lot of that starts with their draft pick that they just had.
Christian Watson.
I was thinking Wilkerson, but yeah, Watson. 6'5". I think what did he run, like a 4.3 640 at the combine. It was going to be very big out there. Get that size, get that speed. You still got, I believe they still have Lazard, in the receiving core, and I think he might be their number one now. But the defense, I don't know. You just can't really think of the Packers and not have anything less than a decent defense. They always seem to have a solid defense to be able to hold Aaron Rodgers up to get them to where they are in contention every single year, not just for the division, but, to make a run in the playoffs. So I don't see it happening, but I think in the next year or two, I think we're going to see the Vikings, we're going to see the Lions starting to surpass the Packers for the top team in the North.
Chris, what did you think about that move to go up to get Wood?
So if we're talking Christian Watson, then I think
Watson, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay. So I think they definitely need to address the wide receiver issue. But when I was shaking my head and when we were talking about him, is because stories are leaking out that he's having drop issues now in practice.
Yep.
So we'll see if he's their guy. I think wide receiver is definitely going to be a critical thing for the Packers and whether they're going to be a good team this year, because they could have a great defense, but if their defense is on the field for the whole game because their offense isn't getting any first downs because they can't move the ball, then it could be a rough year for the Packers.
I thought that was the knock on Woods to begin with, is that he had a lot of drops. And that
Christian Watson, right?
Watson, yeah. I thought that was the knock on him before he was drafted.
So if you want to get sort of someone in your mind, or two someones in your mind, he has a lot of elements to his game that are similar to both to Braylon Edwards and Terrell Owens, in that he's a physically dominant person, right? 6'3" and 7'8", almost 6'4", 220, almost 220 pounds, and yes, runs in the 4.3s. Kid from Plant High School, right? A football factory in Tampa, Florida. I have a friend who scouted him, watched him play high school ball, and he's raw in a lot of areas. Watch out also for some of the guys that are further down the depth chart to start pushing, like Romeo Doubs. And still, though obviously Randall Cobb isn't quite what he was when he was younger, don't be surprised if he doesn't have a tremendous number of targets as a slot guy.
Didn't they sign Sammy Watkins, by the way?
And they signed Sammy Watkins as well, who's going to see some time at both X and Z.
Yeah,
they're going to be okay at receiver. To me, still the big question is, will they remember their running game? When they remember their running game, they win. Look at the numbers on when they – now, part of it is sort of baked in there. Like when you're running the ball more, it means you probably have a lead. But when they have, between their two running backs, 24 or more carries, they're almost completely unbeatable. So if they remember to run the football, they're going to be fine on offense. They have two dynamic young running backs. Aaron Jones is, to me, a top 7 or 8 running back in the league, and Dylan might be a top 12 or 13 running back in the league who just happens to be a backup. They have two, to me, easily top 20 running backs on the same team. And maybe even I'd say top 15 in my personal.
We have two better ones.
I think Aaron Rodgers is a big trust guy with his receivers too. So I feel like having Cobb there is huge because he's that guy that he can definitely trust. But if he doesn't have that trust with the other receivers, then you're going to see, Jones and Dillon a lot of carries this year.
Yeah, Watson gets about 3 practices to drop passes, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's a wrap. Aaron Rodgers is done.
He had,
there's already
drops
reports
on 120 catches.
There's already reports that Watson's been dropping a lot of passes in practice. Right?
That's not going to last long. He'll go on the Pat McAfee.
Last time we heard that was Jamar Chase, and look what happened.
Right.
So
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, Jamar, just the white lines in the ball were the reason he caught the ball.
Oh, that's what it was. Yeah, he couldn't see that. Yeah.
He couldn't see the ball.
White line.
So, Mr. Scott, what's going to be the Packers' record at the end of the season?
Well, I haven't really looked at their total schedule, so I guess I can't really, wait a minute.
Hold on, Mr. Scott. Wait, Mr. Scott. Hold on. I'm not going to let you get away with that. You know how many times they played the Detroit Lions. You know how many times they played the Chicago Bears, and you at least know how many times they played the Packers. So are they going to
win in the division? How will their record?
No. I mean that's just within your division. You know those games happen.
You're right.
Yeah.
Okay, so are you telling me that out of the other 11 games, you're only going to win 2?
Are you asking him the Packers record or the Vikings record?
I'm asking him the Packers record.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the Packers record. Well, they're going to lose to the Vikings. Yeah, they'll probably, like we always do. We beat Detroit. I mean, those are givens.
The Packers record is the question.
The Vikings are next, Mr. Scott.
Well, I can project that onto Green Bay also. I mean, they're going to beat the Lions also. I mean, the Lions are pretty much those are given. So,
Mr. Scott, what is the Packers record going to be? Is it going to be 12-5?
I would say
is it going to be
10-7? I would say 10-7.
10-7. Okay. Do you agree with that, Demetrius?
Hell no, I don't agree. This is some bullshit. You know this. What are we talking about? Okay, so I'm going to try and stay on script. First of all, I'm going to go back because I missed the Jaire question. One thing we got to be careful about is when we say, hey, the Packers made, or the team X made so-and-so the highest paid player. That doesn't really mean anything. All it means is that they're the last person to sign their contract. Yeah. And next week, when another guy signs his contract, he'll be the highest paid guy at that position. So Jaire's a good player, but that's all. Highest paid player at his position just means he's the last dude to sign his contract. Now, set that aside. I can be objective. Unlike some people on this podcast, unlike at least one person on this podcast, I can be objective. I have no problem sitting here saying the Packers are still the class of our division. I have never said the Lions are going to win the division. I've always said our year is next year. I've been consistent. As long as they've got the best player in the division, who happens to be the best quarterback in the division, and they balanced out what they lost with some good ads. The combination of Sammy Watkins, Christian Watson makes up for some of what they lost. But Bill nailed the point. They need to get their heads out of their ass, give Dylan and who's my guy whose name I can't remember? Sorry. Aaron Jones. Give Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon the football, and they'll win games. They're the best team in our division. My podcast is called Cornbread and Kool-Aid because I eat Lions cornbread and Kool-Aid all day, every day. But I'm also a reasonable young man with a mind. Green Bay's the best team in the division. They're probably going to win 12 games. I'll say they're going to go 12-5, and they're going to win the division. And I'm not even going to throw a veiled shot to Minneapolis. I'm not going to do that. I will be honest and say they're going to win more games than we are. I don't have to do this stuff Mr. Scott does. The Vikings have a really good defense, and they've got the best running back in the division. They've got talented players across that. Harrison Smith is an underrated player. Justin Jefferson might be the best receiver, certainly in the division, maybe in the league. Minnesota's got 9, possibly 10 wins on their schedule. But only one of them is coming against Detroit. That's okay, because we're going to get them like we did last year. We're going to get them at home, but I like the Vikings to win 10 games and eke into the playoffs. I've never said the Lions are better than
1-16.
Minnesota or Green Bay. See, and then I don't say ridiculous stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff you'll never hear me say. So 12-5 is my prediction for the Packers.
What's your prediction, Bill?
I already gave mine previously.
He
I
did.
gave 5 a while.
He said 12-5 like 45 minutes ago.
I thought that was Chris.
No, I'm going looking at their schedule. I'm thinking 10-7.
Okay.
Ooh, another 10. Dylan?
Yeah, I believe when we talked about this the last time I was on, I believe I landed at 12-5 for the Packers as well.
Now, I guess we can turn off Mr. Scott now because we're going to talk about.
I'm gonna need you to mute him. Yeah, I'm gonna need you to mute him for about 18 minutes.
Oh, okay. So, Mr. Scott, what do you think about the Vikings move to the 3-4?
I think it's a good move. I think with their personnel so far, they're building towards that. And I know they got the new defensive coordinator. What is it, Donatelli? And
Donatello.
Yeah.
Donatello. Yeah. And they're really turning the page out here at Winter Park. I mean, they really are, and I think that they're primed for, big things in the division. And I think this year is, the year that Kirk Cousins may have an MVP year. I mean, I think with those receivers, with the backs, there's no reason to not think that this is going to be it. They made the changes with a new coach from the Super Bowl winning team. They've got the new GM. They've got a whole new thing going on, and I'm liking everything I see right now of the Minnesota Vikings.
Who are your best 3 players, Mr. Scott?
Well, Dalvin Cook, Jefferson, and Kirk Cousins. 3 best players are on the offense. Well, you got to have Daniel Hunter on the defense.
Daniel Hunter is up there, and Harrison Smith. There you go. Yeah, I like both of those.
While, but he's still one of the top safeties in the league. So I mean, we're looking good. Matter of fact, I think I'll even try to get the Lions game this year. Maybe go to it. It's just so I can see a sure win.
So all right, I'll be the bigger man here. Justin Jefferson is clear number 1. I'm not as big a fan of Kirk Cousins as you. I think Daniil Hunter has been underrated for a long time and is a really good football player. Yeah. And I happen to like Harrison Smith. Again, under the radar, really good at his job. I don't dislike Dalvin Cook. He's not healthy enough for me. He's not available enough for me. So I would go Jefferson, Hunter, and Harrison Smith would be my 3. I do think we have to take a slight step back and at least acknowledge that installing a new everything is going to have an impact. New coach, new offense, new defense. That's all new terminology. Everything is new. We can't assume they're just going to hit the ground running. There's going to be no learning curve. But you can think that way. I just experienced that last year. So there is a degree of, with everything being new, it takes time. Now it might only take 3 or 4 games. It took the Lions 12. So who knows? But you're more talented. So don't discount
when you're not starting at the bottom. There's no different when you're not starting at the bottom. See, we're starting with a lot of talent on this.
Dylan, can we get your thoughts on the Vikings? Dylan, what do you think of the Vikings? I'm just going to take over the podcast, James.
Yeah, no, man, for sure. And again, I like the whole 3-4, like Anthony was saying. I think it does fit a lot of their personnel, but I don't know. I heard you say Kirk Cousins MVP season, and I was just like, what the hell?
He lost you.
Right? But he's a good quarterback. He starts, right? He could start for some other NFL teams, but I don't know if I'd put him in the best 3 players on the Vikings for sure. I think it's I agree with Demetrius and Mr. Scott here. I think in order it would be Justin Jefferson, and then Harrison, and then I think when healthy would be Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
Exactly, when healthy. Because actually, when he's healthy, he's probably the first player. So that's why I put him down at 3 is because he's just not healthy ever. But that's where I would put those 3 players.
Kirk Cousins is a Hall of Fame businessman. His quarterbacking skills is a different story.
Yeah.
Like he's
Hall of
just
Fame,
above Sam Bradford right there on that
Hall
level
of Fame
right
contract negotiator. but I don't know that he's the top 10 quarterback.
No.
Right now, number 2 in my SBQFI, the Sam Bradford Quarterback Finesse Index. He's second only to the master himself, Sam Bradford.
Oh man,
Chris, who do you think are the best 3 players on the Vikings?
I mean, I think we've hit on it with Jefferson, Hunter, Cook, a healthy Cook. I'm not a Kirk Cousins guy either. I don't think he's as good as his numbers dictate or his contract pays him. But I think the Vikings could be, I'm going to call them frisky team this year. Like they could, I think, surprise and, end up making some noise in the NFC. I love their draft picks of Andrew Booth and Lewis Seen. I had a draft guy on my podcast. He hyped these guys up. There are 2 guys that I wanted the Patriots to draft, and they bypassed both of them. So I think they're going to make some, have some good young rookie players. Looking at their schedule, they're playing the AFC East and NFC East in the NFC North this year. So they open up with Green Bay, and if they can get a win at Green Bay, then it's at Philly, Detroit, New Orleans, Chicago, Miami. Like they could open up with a good grip of wins. They could possibly be 5-0, 6-0. Who knows going into their bye week, and then who knows what could happen with them. I think maybe a 12-5 year for the Vikings this year.
How many touchdowns for the Cousins to Jefferson duo, Chris?
I think I'm going to put my number at about 13. A lot of it is dependent on which Kirk Cousins wants to show up each day, and if you have a healthy Adam Thielen on the other side to kind of dictate a little bit of the coverage, give Jefferson more one-on-one opportunities will be key. And also if they're moving the ball well with the running game and a healthy Dalvin Cook. But I see Justin Jefferson being, one of the top leaders in the NFC in touchdowns for this year.
Yep.
What do you think, Bill? I mean, between all your fantasy leagues and stats and
I mean, I'm high on. In fact, Justin Jefferson was my wide receiver 1 coming out of college. And I thought people were nuts for sleeping on him coming out.
Yep.
Because what couldn't he do? He proved he could play multiple positions. He proved he was a elite level athlete at the position. He was productive. I mean, I don't know what people were looking at or weren't looking at, but I think that they spread the ball around a little bit more this year, so I don't think it's anything due to him. I think his numbers are down. I'm thinking more like 1,180 or so yards. Reception was still very good. 10 or 11 touchdowns. He's going to have a very, very solid season. I think they spread the ball around a little bit more.
Dylan, how many TDs do you have for the duo?
Yeah, just like Chris said, I think with Thielen, if he can stay healthy all season, and you have both of those guys on the opposite sides of the field, it's going to be a lot better, especially for Jefferson's stat line. So I would say somewhere between 13, but then I could also see him getting up to like 15 because he's like honestly just been like what Bill said. People slept on him, right? But even in college, it's like me being an OU fan, right? Something I see in my dreams all the time is him in the end zone going,
Right, exactly.
Like in the first half. And I remember watching that and being from Louisiana, I saw him, right? But Jamar Chase winning, the Blitnikoff, that's why I think he was slept on. But no, Justin Jefferson he was the best receiver on that team, I think, that year. But I would say somewhere between 13, which is probably where he's going to be. But I could see him getting up to 15, depending on what Thielen does this year.
Dylan, the Bears, they ranked 31st in spending for wide receivers. Who's Justin Fields going to be throwing to?
The hell if I know, right? Because they're spending the 31st. That's how low they are. We don't know who he's going to be throwing to. I think Cole Kmet, the tight end, is probably going to be his biggest target.
That's the answer. Yeah.
Well, it's like, think about it. Like, I know we're going to talk about the O-line, but I'm not going to talk about that. But it's like check down. Like that's going to be his biggest target this year. Is probably Cole Kmet.
I think Bill's got a private workout next week, actually. Bill's 20 minutes from Soldier Field. He's got a private workout. Bill might be get 30, 35, 40 targets. I think the answer is Cole Kmet, though, by the way. I like that answer.
Yeah.
What do you think, Bill?
Background.
Wait, what's that?
Also, David Montgomery's going to probably get a just ton of targets in the
in the backfield. Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
All those checkdowns, man. He's gonna have to utilize those.
I would just warn people: do not sleep on Darnell Mooney. I would just throw that out there.
Yeah. I like the draft pick, the kid Jones, right?
Velus
Jones. Yeah, I still think it's Cole Kmet, actually, which is a statement, right? Great question, James. Great question. When the answer ends up being Cole Kmet, that's a great question. And we can't sleep on Darnell Mooney, but I don't know. I don't know who they are yet. That's a tough one for me because I don't know who they are. I don't know what they are, and everything's new over there too. So,
but you guys talk about Montgomery, but what the hell about the O-line? I mean, doesn't he have to get through the O-line to catch? I mean,
I like Jenkins. I mean, I like Jenkins, their tackle, but they've got some holes there. But what you do then is kind of what Dylan talked about. You check down to your tight end and to your running back. That's how you mitigate the fact that you don't have the kind of talent you want up front. You literally design that into your scheme. You design, those plays in, and what you can do with David Montgomery can help. So.
Yeah.
And
they have a couple of young guys on the O-line that I think are going to see the field, even if they're as swing guys. I think Borum pushes for more playing time this year. In fact, I think he's going to end up starting at left tackle.
You think he's going to start at left or right? Isn't Jenkins going to start at left?
I think Borum's going to end up on the left side. I think Tevin Jenkins is going to be on the right side because he's more of the ass kicker, whatever term you want to use. And then you mentioned Velus Jones, but the Jones that might end up being the most important in the development of the young quarterback might be Braxton Jones, who I think is going to play at times either one of the tackle spots for them. And I really like Ja'Tyre Carter, who they got from Southern, who's going to play some guard for them. And I could see him maybe eventually pushing Mustapher or Dakota Dozier out of that right guard spot, and Cody Whitehair probably stays at left. They still need to figure out what they're going to do at center. I mean, right now it's Lucas Patrick, but I believe they want to upgrade that position if they can. Maybe someone gets cut due to salary cap issues. If one of those veteran centers that is still decent gets bounced, I could see them going out and grabbing him.
Chris, you guys play against the NFC North this year. What are you looking forward to? Let's see. You play the Bears, you play the Lions, you play the Vikings. What's your thoughts here? You want to get something started with Mr. Scott too?
Well,
please.
I mean, I predicted an 11-5 year for the Pats, but I did give them a loss at Thanksgiving at Minnesota, so I expect that one. Playing the NFC
up
North
to Mr. Scott for.
I don't want to lie to the audience,
That's so bitter.
But I was really excited. And then I think the Packers early off in the season is a tough draw for the Pats. Just going against Aaron Rodgers early on could be tough, but again, they don't have the weapons they have outside that we already discussed about, so it could be a matchup. I think they'll probably go 2-2 against the NFC North this year. But again, they're fun games. I'm excited to watch the Lions play. Not to blow smoke at Demetrius, but I think they did a lot of good things that we'll talk about here shortly. That I'm excited to see.
Well, do I have to talk about the Lions, or do I just turn the mic over to Demetrius?
Just you may as well save everybody time and put good info out there. Go ahead. You guys can all go. I'll save it. Just turn off one mic. Everybody else can talk. I just need to turn off one mic.
The Bears are going to get a win this year.
I have the Bears at 5-12. I don't think they're very good. Okay. I went through their schedule. I only came up with 5 wins. 5 possible wins. It might not even be that many.
I think they might have 3 possible wins if it's Houston, the Giants maybe, but I think the Giants still have more talent on their team than the Bears do.
Where's the Giants at?
It's at New York. And then they play the Jets. They play the Jets too late in the season at at New York again. But again, the Jets, I like what they did. I think they have more talent than the Bears too. So
Yeah.
I think if they don't beat Houston at home week 3, they might not win a game the rest of the year.
Wow. Yeah, that's actually
Whoa.
possible. That's not out of the
Yeah.
question. The offensive line thing that we keep talking about is a big
Yeah.
deal. That's not out of the question. I
I guess
being
maybe they
generous.
got Atlanta too. So Atlanta, that might be one there, but we'll see.
Yeah. So yeah.
Well, I did forget about that. What is the record of the Bears, Bill?
I mean, I think 5-12 is probably about right. 6-11 is possible. The defense is still going to keep them in a lot of games.
Yeah.
And
You almost hit a Prince note there with that one there, Bill. but-
Yeah, I know.
classic for register. So here's the things that I think you'll see. If we're just talking about how it is, they might find 1 or 2 wins that we aren't originally seeing. I truly believe that at some point, half of the season, Justin Fields is going to kick it into another gear. And I think he's going to start making some of those players that we aren't maybe talking about as being that good. He's going to make some of those guys look better. I think Equanimeous St. Brown starts to develop. Myron Pringle is a wildly underrated player who was, when played, was very productive in Kansas City, but didn't play all that much because we're talking about Kansas City and they were stupid deep at wide receiver. That won't be a problem where he is now. So he's going to see time at a couple of different positions in their offense, and he's going to up their return game as well. And Velus Jones is also a crackerjack returner. So between Pringle and Jones, you have a couple of good options in the return game. I won't be shocked if Daz Newsome starts to see the field. I think Dante Pettis might turn his career around a little bit. Tajay Sharp will come in some of those third and short situations. He's good at getting open underneath. Darnell Moody's still one of the faster, not, elite, but he's a guy who, 4.38, 4.39. So he can run. Pringle's another guy that's in the low 4.4s. Pettis is an upper 4.4s guy. Velus Jones is a 4.31, I think. So this is a faster group of receivers than they had last year. Another team that's gotten faster at receiver is this team, except Tajay Sharp. But the rest of these guys all can run, not named Tajay Sharp. And the offensive line is, as said, as we said. Kmet should have a better year than he's had. I think they should also get the ball much more often to Khalil Herbert. And I don't dislike David Montgomery, but he's a guy where if everything goes well, he's going to get you 8 to 12 yards. Khalil Herbert can run away from people in a way that David Montgomery can only in his dreams. If they give more touches to Herbert, both in the passing game and the running game, I think they'll help them they'll accident their way into 2 or 3 explosive plays because of his ability to break tackles and then pull away from people in the open field. So it's going to be a bad year, but I think the bad might get all the way to 6 wins as opposed to the 2 to 3 or whatever, 4, whatever most of them are throwing out there. I could see them getting all the way to 6. I think that's the high water mark for them is 6 wins. I think 4 is low water mark for them. I don't think they go below 4 wins.
Dylan.
We're still talking about the Bears, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Like I could see them going 4-13, kind of like in the middle of what you guys are saying. And the reason I say that is because I'm not sure. It's like we know what their offense is probably going to look like, right? Especially the O-line problems. But one thing I was going to ask Bill was, what about the defense? Like, are they going to be able to hold teams to 14 points, possibly, maybe even less, for the Bears to be able to win a game, right? So I would say somewhere around 4-13.
Yeah, it's a good news, bad news situation. So there's some players that you may not be aware of yet who are going to see the field and be boys in the field.
Yeah.
They have a very good young corner in Jalen Johnson. That's a name. If you're not familiar with it, remember it.
I've heard of it, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Right? He's a good young corner. They got a steal in my mind in Jaquan Brisker. That's another name to remember. That guy's going to play early and often. And when they go into their 3 safety sets, you're going to see Dane Cruikshank, former Tennessee Titan, who should have probably seen the field more in Tennessee than he did. But watch, he's going to play and play well. Jaquan Brisker, Eddie Jackson's still there. He's still very good.
Yep.
Above the middle point line safety. Kyler Murray. That guy knew I was going to do that. Kyler Murray. I was afraid of it. Tyler
Fantasies, man. Fantasies.
Gordon's going to be good. Kendall Vildor is going to be good. So they have pretty good depth in the secondary. My concerns are about the linebackers who are not named Roquan Smith. Yeah, so Roquan Smith is good. He's going to continue to be good. Right now, it's a battle between Matthew Adams, who's a free agent who came over, followed Eberflus over from the Colts. Joe Thomas, who is a free agent, came from San Francisco. And Christian Albright, who I really liked at Ball State University.
Albright, yeah.
Yep, so he has a shot. And then Roquan Smith is backed up by C.J. Avery and Caleb Johnson. And then I like Jack Sanborn, who they got this year, rookie from Wisconsin. Has a shot to the field. He'll be battling with Nicholas Morrow, who came by way of the Raiders, where he was a backup with the Raiders. But right now he's projected to start for the Bears, which is not great. But yeah, Noah Dawkins and Sanborn. I think Sanborn, by the time the year's over, pushes his way onto the field. And then you still have Robert Quinn, who I think is still a very effective pass rusher. Their tackles, defensive tackles, are.
Hold on, Bill. We only have another hour or so. But...
Oh, right. Sorry.
So,
okay, so I'll wrap up. They have only one really, really, really certified pass rusher, but watch out for one last name is Dominique Robinson. He was giving people problems at the Senior Bowl. Now, obviously, that's the Senior Bowl. It's not the same as an actual football game, especially not in the NFL. But I think he has a lot of the elements that can make the guy an effective pass rusher. He's athletic. He has a pretty good array of moves already, and he's just beginning to get stronger. And once he gets stronger and he's getting stronger, he's going to be a problem.
Demetrius, as I was saying, I don't know that I should just turn this segment over to you and let you take over this, but
I'm willing to give everybody a chance to give me their thoughts on the Lions, and then I'll just correct all that bullshit. It's fine. No, I'm just kidding. I'm only going to correct one person because he's going to be dead wrong. But look, why don't you go around? Let me be last. I think that might be fun because I might go on. I'm about to pull a Bill Carroll, so y'all can get some popcorn, grab a soda, go to the bathroom right now if you need to, because I'm about to give y'all like the whole. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
All right. Well, let's start with Dylan. The Lions, they re-signed at least 7 players from a 3-13-1 roster. What's your thoughts on that? I mean, is this a foundation?
Well, yeah, it has to be. And one thing I love about the Lions is, he came from the Saints. Dan freaking Campbell. How can you not like this guy? Right? Like when it comes to, just his energy, but then also, what did he say? He wants to eat people's kneecaps, shit like that. It's like,
yes, yep.
Like you have to love that guy. What people say, he is a football guy. And I think the people that they signed are definitely, and I'm not going to act like I know everything about the Lions. I did some research on this.
I'll take care of that later. Don't worry.
Yeah, no, for sure. You can correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right.
This right here, like people they resigned, they're not these, standout players, all this stuff, but they're definitely the people that Dan Campbell wants. Someone that's going to put their nose to the ground and very gritty guys, right? They're going to work hard to get to where they want to be, and they're not these flashy superstars, and I think, it's definitely going to take time to have it's going to take time to have players kind of get into the system and build the system up like Dave Campbell's trying to get. And once you get enough players that are just going to work hard, that's when you get, a decent team that's going to be in the mix. And then once you get those players developed or get a couple, just like stars out of it, some like hosses, that's when you're going to be contending for, division championships and even like playoff runs. So I don't know, Demetrius, if I were you, if I were a Lions fan, I'd be very excited about the future. For sure.
I am, dude. I'm amped. Yeah. You're absolutely right. Everything you said was good. Two thumbs up.
I'm going to put one more voice of reasoning in here before we get to Mr. Scott. Chris, what are your thoughts on Detroit re-signing 7 of their players from a 3-13 team?
Yeah, I think I like all their moves. Like I said, I'm not gonna be like Dylan and say I know everything about the Lions, but I think they're gonna be an exciting team to watch this year. They obviously were building some good things with Dan Campbell this last year. It seems like the players have bought into the type of player, the type of coach he is, and they like his system. And I don't think that 3-13 record that you keep saying, James, is indicative of the team that performed on the field last year. Demetrius can get into all the stats in it, but I feel like they were definitely a better team than that. A lot of close games. So I think they're definitely gonna be a sneaky team this year. I think adding, I guess we'll get into a DJ Shark to the mix is a huge, piece of the puzzle there. He's a big body on the outside. See now how Jameson Williams gets into the fold. TJ Hawkinson, I'm a big fan of his. He's a huge red zone guy, just whether he can stay healthy or not. So I think, them re-signing those players from last year's team, that was a good squad, and just kind of building that foundation is really good for the Lions right now.
Mr. Scott, what do you think about those players that Detroit re-signed?
Well, I mean, they're starting at the bottom, so it's only going up for them basically. But my thoughts on them is, can be wrapped up in 2 words: Jared Goff.
That's actually not unfair. I respect that. That's actually not unfair at all. He made a great point. I'm proud of him, actually. That was well done. Well done. I have no problem with anything you just said. I really don't.
Bill, Chris kind of mentioned it, but what about the signing of DJ Clark?
If you mean DJ Chark, DJ Chark. If that's who you meant, then yes, he's going to at least initially be sort of their number one. But they have, he's going to obviously need time to recover. But Jameson Williams is an extremely talented receiver, and when he's 100% healthy, he could end up being the guy. But I'm going to give you an undrafted free agent that filed his name away. He may not do that much this year. File his name for future reference. I think he eventually becomes your 4th receiver in your 4 receiver sets. His name is Khalil Pimpleton, Central Michigan.
Yep.
And he's another guy who's, first of all, a terrific special teamer, but he's a guy who has a lot of make you miss to him. He's got a certain amount of toughness also. I just think he's going to, first of all, we talked about the kneecap biting. That's a kneecap biter. He's the kind of guy that your coaching staff's going to fall in love with. And he's going to take time away from guys like Khalif Raymond and guys like that who are sort of aging out as this team continues to get younger. They still have Frank Ragnow, who's one of my favorite centers in the league. Penei Sewell is on his way to being a star at the right tackle position. Taylor Decker is still an above-average left tackle. And was, people already talked about Hawkinson and waxed a little bit rhapsodic. I think eventually that other tight end, when they go 2 tights, becomes Derek Deese Jr., who's the only reason he's still available. He's got a really poor pro day, but he's a better player than his pro day showed. I like the running backs. They have a bunch of good running backs, actually. Almost too many. I mean, they brought in Greg Bell, who I liked a lot from San Diego State. They still have Dominic Nweke. They still have Jamar Jefferson, who flashed at times last year. Craig Reynolds, Touchdown State. I love small school guys. They brought in Jamal Williams as a signee coming from Green Bay. And they obviously have this tremendous guy they picked up out via the draft in DeAndre Swift, who's already shown to be a massively productive young running back. They added Hutchinson to a pretty good.
All right, cut it. No, you can't. Not with the Lions. You got to leave me something. You're not going through the whole roster, Bill. You're my guy, but this is the Lions. I get to do this one. I'll let you have the whole NFC South.
I see my time to the gentleman from the great state of Michigan.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. So here's the thing, and everybody touched on great points. You keep saying the 3-13-1 Lions, the 3-13-1 Lions. Incredibly disingenuous. You're still my dude, but the last 6 games in particular, they went 3-3, and they were just a better team. I will give Mr. Scott credit for something he said earlier that was really smart. When I talked about Minnesota having a new staff and new everything, he brought up the idea of if you bring in a new staff and you've got a bunch of talent, the learning curve isn't as long, right? With the Lions last year, Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia left us bare. He's right. When he said stuff like they're starting from bottom, that's not even a joke. I don't even take that as a shot. That's real shit. We were talent deficient. But what I would say to you is this. The re-signing I'm going to give you 4 of those guys and tell you why. Tracy Walker's our starting safety. He was an unrestricted free agent. There were a bunch of teams who wanted Tracy Walker. That's a great re-signing. Charles Harris led us in sacks last year. We got him for nothing. And when you package that with, we drafted Hutchinson, we drafted a kid that is already in my top 5 favorite players named Joshua Pascal out of Kentucky. You're going to love him if you watch Hard Knocks. Now and we get back an injured Romeo Okwara. We have a legitimate defensive line, guys. We improved 2 really weak positions last year, and we're just doing it incrementally. We still got problems at linebacker, but Alex Anzalone came over from New Orleans with Dan Campbell and knows the scheme. That's a great re-signing. And we got a guy from the Rams named Josh Reynolds, and our passing game numbers shifted dramatically when Josh Reynolds came to our team. So now you add Jameson Williams and DJ Chark to that. Those guys make Hawkinson better. They make Reynolds better. They make Amon-Ra St. Brown better, and he was already good. And they make DeAndre Swift better. And guess what? Even though Mr. Scott was right, all those things make Jared Goff better. Right. That's the point. We are still on our way. We don't have the talent Minnesota has. I've never said we did. We're not going to have the record Minnesota has. We're going to beat their ass when they come to Detroit. But we don't have the talent they have, and we have the record they have. But we are doing everything right. I love Brad Holmes. I can't even tell you guys how much I've never loved an executive other than when Joe Dumars was leading the Pistons more than I love Brad Holmes. He's doing everything right. And we're on our way. Your answer is 4 of those guys were good players that other teams wanted and would have signed, and they came back. They came back to a 3-13 in one team because they know what we're doing. They see what's happening. Tracy Walker could have signed with a bunch of teams. Charles Harris came off of 6 sacks. He could have went and signed with anybody. He didn't. And I think those things, Alex Anzalone is a good fit. He's not a great player. He's a good guy in the room. He knows the system. He's going to help young linebackers like Derek Barnes and others. So these re-signings, they were smart. And other guys are just for depth. But 4 of those signings were contributing players that were difference makers. You might not know their names, but I do. And when you add the receivers to Josh Reynolds, he's even better. When you add Hutchinson and Pascal to Charles Harris, he's even better. When you go out and get Deshaun Elliott to go into your defensive backfield, Tracy Walker just got better. They're doing a lot of smart things the right way. Those signings were actually really good. They were.
Demetrius, what was your thoughts on Matt Millen?
The worst decision ever made by my organization. Set us back a decade. We are still recovering. Well, not so much. We're finally through that. But yeah, that set us back a decade. Seriously. And there's no way around it. And he's not a bad man. He's a nice human being. By all accounts, he's a good father, nice guy, good friend, whatever.
Just a bad football executive.
Yeah, and that's the thing. He was a great commentator, and I think William Clay Ford, rest his soul, people kept saying, get a football guy to run your football team. Because before that, we had an accountant running our team. But those are the glory years. Barry Sanders, Wayne Fonts, Chuck Schmidt actually took us to the playoffs. I wish we could get back Chuck Schmidt. But they kept yelling in his ear, get a football guy to run your football team. And somebody said, hey, Matt Millen sounds smart. But there's a lot more to just knowing X's and O's, having played, and how you run a business, how you run an organization. And when you get up the morning of the draft and your scouts have said, this is who you need to draft, and you show up to the building and go, I think I want to draft another wide receiver. That Mike Williams kid doesn't look too overweight, and you do that kind of stuff, that's just bad leadership. So my short version is nice man, bad leader. And he set us back a decade at least. And but Brad Holmes is almost the exact opposite. Borderline brilliant. He's going to win an executive of the year soon.
Yep. And
how about Matt Patrica? What's your thoughts on Matt Patrica?
I would like to call him Matt Patrica forever. I'm going to start calling him Matt Patrica because that's how I feel about him. Again, probably a nice man, but it just didn't work. It didn't work. Matt Patrica is probably a nice guy. It didn't work. And that's all.
He's back home.
He's back where he should be. And I just think it's easy to just blame everything on him, but his boss, I am of the opinion that what the Lions have never gotten right is that top executive in the organization. We've had good coaches. Wayne Fonts wasn't horrible. Jim Caldwell was a very good coach. I will tell you, Steve Mariucci was our coach at one point. Bobby Ross was a nice man and a decent football. We've never gotten the executive right. Yep. We have never, in my lifetime, we have never had competent leadership at the top. Guys who knew how to draft, who knew how to manage the cap, sign free agents. We once traded the draft pick that became Willie Roaf for a guy named Pat Swilling, who was good, but when we got Pat Swilling, he was 33, and Willie Roaf just didn't have a Hall of Fame career, right? We chose Eric Ebron over some guy named Aaron Donald. Yeah, we chose Eric Ebron, right? Our entire
next year, and Donald might
What's
not
that?
be. Ebron might be playing next year, and Donald might not be.
And he'll still suck though. Donald will be in all
I
the
would still take Donald over Ebron.
Exactly.
If he doesn't play this year.
Chris, he would rather have, even if Aaron Donald retires next year, to have had Aaron Donald.
Exactly. Our entire 2012 draft, the entire draft class, by start of the 2014 season, a year and a half later, not a single player from the 2012 draft was on our roster. You can't punt a whole draft and then pass on Aaron Donald for Eric Ebron. Martin Mayhew was a smart guy, nice man. You can't do that. You can't do that. And those are the kinds of things that have set us back. I love where we are. Obviously, like Brad Holmes, I think the signings were smart. And we are still a year away. Minnesota is going to be there. That's going to be the thing for years. Me and Mr. Scott is going to be going with this for the next 5-7 years because I think we're the two teams in that division that are going to own it for the next decade, maybe. Mm-hmm. It's going to be our two teams.
What's your record this year?
Our record, I see 8 wins on our schedule. I think I have Minnesota getting 10. I think the Vikings have 10 wins on their schedule. I think we can. You haven't looked at our schedule. You haven't looked at our schedule. You already admitted you didn't look at our schedule. We got 8 wins on our schedule because you're assuming we're a 3-13-1 team, when in reality we were probably closer to a 6-10 team. And our additions, guys, I'm just telling you, we are major step better than we were last year. And that is because we weren't good last year. I admit that. But we addressed the right positions and we addressed them in the right way. This is a much better football team. I'm telling you, it's a much better football team. And I think there's 8 wins on our schedule, for sure.
As the great Denny Green says, they are what we thought they were.
And we got all winter to talk about it. The good news is you and I can get together every Thursday and do this every week.
Who's the coach of the Minnesota Vikings?
McDonald, is that his name?
Yes.
The new guy's McDonald? Okay.
McDonald, yeah. Okay. He's a OC for the Rams? Is that what he was?
McConnell, but yeah.
McConnell, sorry.
Yeah, but he was, once again, a guy I scouted in college, San Diego State University quarterback, backed up, amongst other people, Tom Brady in his career. But yes, he is a young head coach.
And he might be very good. I've heard nothing but good things about that guy. And at the end of the day, the Vikings have more talent than the Lions. I'm not a crazy person. I'm honest enough to say that. They have more talent. The truth is, they beat us last year on a field goal as the clock expired, and we beat them in Detroit. So, factually, that doesn't bother me. We're going to bust that ass when they come to Detroit. But I believe they're a better team, and I've always been honest about that. Our year is next year. I'm going to be an asshole for real next year. You think I'm difficult now? Man, the Sports Crib 23.
Next year's our year, right?
Exactly. This is it. We got 2 first rounds next year and 2 thirds. Yeah. Shit gets real next year. It gets real.
Chris, what did you think about the Bucks signing Hakeem Hicks?
I thought it was a good move for them because they need to definitely address the line because that's always been a strength for them. And then not bringing back Ndamukong Suh, who's still now a free agent. They're talking he might go to the Rams or the Raiders now. So getting Hakeem Hicks 1-year deal, $10 million, good price for a good player. So I think he'll definitely beef up that line for the Buccaneers, who do rely on that defensively to have that strength up front, have that solid front seven. So he'll definitely be a nice addition for that line.
What's your thoughts, Dylan?
Yeah, like Chris said, you had to replace Sue, right? But one thing I was actually looking up just to double check myself was, are they bringing back? Yeah, so are they bringing back Vita Vea? Is he still with the Bucks?
They still had him on their depth chart when I just looked.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. See, I was just making sure. But so when you have Vita Vea, say if you lose Sue, but you still have Vita Vea, then you get Hakeem Hicks. Yeah. And you have that depth of being able to rotate those, those tackles and all that out. I think that's a really good pickup, especially for $10 million. Like that's pretty much a steal for someone like Hakeem Hicks. Yeah. He hasn't been what he has been in the past, about 4 years ago when he had that big year, but he's still, a veteran guy. Definitely going to help Vita Vea, who's a little bit, younger. I think it was a great pickup for the Bucks. I think it's going to really make sure that they really don't lose a step too much on the defensive side of the ball, especially on the defensive line, at least.
Yeah, there's a big difference between being the guy who gets the double team every play. Like in this case, that's Vita Vea. Vita's getting it. So now you're the second guy. 4 years ago when you referenced him, he was the guy getting the double team every play, right? And somebody else is benefiting from that. I think he's going to play well. And to Chris's point, sometimes you got to look at it and go, wait, they paid him what? Is that all they paid him? The value of a signing has a direct correlation to how much they're paying that dude. And for that price and what you're going to get from him being your second defensive tackle, that's a great move. I like that move.
Bill, once again, I'm going to talk to you about the secondary here. Cornerback, Carlton Davis, $30 million guaranteed. Your thoughts?
I don't dislike Carlton Davis. I feel like it's a little tiny bit rich for him, but I mean, he and Sean Murphy Bunting, when they were both on the field and we were both playing well, they had probably a top 7 secondary. Carlton Davis is a guy that is a little bit, I won't say boom or bust, but I mean, he's a guy that he's not afraid to take chances. He's got length, and he's a guy who's scheme versatile. He can play zone and play man both at a fairly high level, and he's still pretty young. So I get it's not a terrible signing. I probably would have, if you told me we got him for 28 guaranteed, I'd be like, oh yeah. I just feel like is it a slight overpay? But he's a 25-year-old corner who's long, and those guys don't grow on trees. So I can't hate the signing.
Dylan, did you say you were a Saints fan?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well then this question has to go to you.
Yeah, you have my time. You have all the time you need, buddy.
Golston came over from the Saints, and as you know, he has said that he would love no more than to sack Jameis Winston when the Saints and the Bucs meet in week 2. How many sacks will Golston get against Winston in week 2?
0. And that's because Winston is not going to be the starting quarterback.
Oh, okay. Trick answer. Nice job, right? Trick answer.
No. The joke was going to be Baker Mayfield's going to be the starting quarterback because Jameson's still, limping and all that stuff. All those reports going out. No, Jameis is our guy, man, for sure. But as much as I would love to have Baker Mayfield on the Saints and all the merchandise that will be hanging on my wall, that's not going to happen. But no, Golston, the dude's a dog. He really is. But my boss, great guy. I love him. Huge Tampa Bay fan. But I get to talk all the shit in the world because of how we just destroy the Buccaneers when it doesn't matter in the regular season every single year. So I'm going to still say 0 because, hey, I got love for my guys, right? Got love for my guys.
There you go.
Jameis Winston, he was on a freaking roll before he hurt his what was it, ACL, man. But I'm gonna say 0 because no one's gonna step in and dominate the Saints like that, especially if you're in Tampa Bay. It's just something that hasn't happened in 3 years. So that was a very Homer answer, by the way. Yes.
Exactly what happens on the crib. Don't worry.
Don't worry about it.
Have you talked to Chris Kendrick yet, by the way?
That's Chuck and Cliff. That's not me.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Chuck and Cliff are real homers. Chuck and Cliff are super homers. Yeah.
But I'm going to give you a chance to talk about your Saints. That's why I wanted to make sure that you were a Saints guy. But what do you guys think about the Bucs? What's their record going to be, Demetrius?
So I am, and I just met Dylan 2 hours ago, so I'm not blowing smoke. I am high on Jameis, so I don't have the Bucs winning this division. I still think there's 9 or 10 wins on their schedule. I believe in, if I can quote the great philosopher LeVar Ball, Father Time is undefeated. Say it with me, Bill. Never lost. So I think Tampa gets old. Uh-oh. Chris has got some good stuff. Who is that? Oh, I don't know.
Stop.
Sorry.
Look at it.
Oh, that's right. Okay, that's the only loss. Sorry. Father's
It's
Time took
Tommy.
1 L. Father's Time took 1 L. It was to Tom Brady. I think the Buccaneers get old in front of our very eyes.
Yep.
And it might be painful, or it might just be a step back, a slow decline. Because it's not like this has got 1 or 2 old guys. Like a bunch of dudes are gonna get old at once, and they're gonna take a step back. So I'm gonna maybe shock people and say I have them at 9-8, largely because I have the Saints beating them twice, winning the division. I think Tampa's like a 9-8 team, who happens to have the greatest quarterback to ever do it. But I think their whole team. I mean, think about their roster and those guys that are out there. They're gonna get old, and I think they're beatable.
What do you think, Mr. Scott? Trying to put him out the pasture?
Well,
Somebody got mad at me last week. I was talking about putting down somebody, but
well, I think they're
I
the
even
best
talking about
team
Ryan
in the division.
Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're the best team in their division, and it's as long as Brady stays upright. I mean, I think that's pretty much a day-to-day thing. I mean, he's really. He's getting in the real deep weeds with this thing. I mean, one hit, but he just keeps going. But I still think they're the best team in their division. Now, how far they go and how that goes again, I won't count Brady out until I hear 10. So in that division, that's kind of where I'm at with it. I've counted him out before to my demise, and so I'm not. I'm gonna do that again. I'm not going to go. I mean, I only go with sure things like the Lions. I go sure things like the Lions. When sure things.
Are they a 10-7 team? Or are they a 9-8 team?
I think they're a playoff team, and but that's going to be determined. I mean, with all these outside
things.
things.
Was a playoff team, and weren't they 9-8 and 9 or something? I mean,
I think they're a playoff team. That's all I can say. And anything can happen in these playoffs. I'm sure Brady's not going to get knocked out of the playoffs.
Bill, how many teams you get? How many wins you get the Bucs?
I'm a tiny bit higher than Demetrius, but I also think they're not the team that they were last year or the year before. I think they're 11-6 this year.
Where you having, Chris?
So, I mean, of course, I'm a Tom guy, so he, can do a lot with when people think he doesn't have a lot, he ends up making a lot with that. So right now they do have the 7th easiest schedule this year. I looked at their lineup or their schedule coming up, and they have a lot of winnable games. I think, they'll end up having probably one of the top records in NFC. I think they're at least a 13-win team.
Oh, okay. Dylan, what do you think is going to be the Bucs record before we start talking about your Saints?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Chris. You got to give, okay, well, first, like what Demetrius said, right? The great philosopher, as he said in LeVar Ball, right? Father Time is undefeated, which is true. But I'm going with Chris and giving Tom Brady the benefit of the doubt. I am a little bit weary of that because the dude did retire, and now he's coming back, and I'm not sure. The only time that's ever really happened that really worked out, if I remember correctly, and again, I'm probably the youngest out of all you guys, so you can correct me, but Brett Favre, right, where it kind of worked out a little bit, But Tom Brady is a lot better than Brett Favre, so I'm going to go about 11-6. I'm going to say around that.
To hell with Brett Favre, first of all, and second of all, Tom Brady retired for a month in the offseason.
Yeah,
That wasn't even a retirement. He went on vacation. He went on vacation. Is what he did.
No, he went on vacation and realized that it's not time for him to stay at home.
He realized I got to spend all my time with these damn kids.
He was a dad for 6 weeks and was like, I think I'd rather be on the field.
Well, he couldn't buy the Dolphins or whatever the hell was going on there. But that ain't even a real retirement.
Theory.
He took a long vacation.
The fact that he thought it's time to hang it up, it's like, is he going to feel that in the middle of the season this year? Of course he's still going to push
Won't
through.
matter. He'll eat a strawberry and avocado sandwich and get over that shit. That's what he's about. That's what he's about.
Someone we don't see will pop off this year too for the Bucs. Like someone will come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's going to be Scotty Miller. Maybe he has a big year, but Brady will have someone step up big this year.
I hate that you mentioned the kids, Demetrius, because that means that next week Big Ben is coming back.
Ben's getting tired of his kids right now. He's at home watching the sports kids. Kids are running around, dropping French fries on the floor. Ben was like, "To hell with this. My elbow feels good." Yep.
Where's the motorcycle at, baby? I know it's still good ride, but
Kick it, schmick it. I'm coming back.
Dylan, let's talk about your Saints, man.
Gladly.
So let's talk about that. They only had 5 draft picks, but did they fulfill their immediate needs?
Oh yeah, for sure. And I feel like we filled our need at receiver and then just continued getting that, right? But with, of course, everyone's going to say Chris Olave out of Ohio State, being an excellent route runner, and probably in my eyes, it's kind of hard to compare him and Wilson at Ohio State of who's the best receiver. But getting Olave out there and having that speed of being able to be a deep threat with Michael Thomas there when we drafted him definitely filled that hole. Now we got Jarvis Landry. So now you just have, the whole trio out there. But my biggest, what I loved was Trevor Penning out of what was it, Northern Iowa, the left tackle. Losing Teron Armstead to Miami, you can't turn down that type of money. So no one blames him for doing that. But getting Trevor Penning, that was our biggest need, was to fill that left tackle spot. So hopefully he's what Mickey Loomis and them thought he was what he's going to be, because he's going to have to step in and be a big factor early on. But that, and then also Alontae Taylor. That defensive back, to where he's going to be out there. I think he could possibly challenge a Debo for the starting spot out there because of his speed and his length. I think that he could challenge a Debo one of the cornerback spots there. So I will say we definitely filled our needs. We only had 5 picks, but we did trade up a lot to get to where we were going to get Olave. But, we're not really complaining about that too much. I haven't heard too many fans complain about it.
Over under 10 games for a healthy Michael Thomas.
So if he stays healthy, yeah, definitely going to be over 10. I think he's going to stay over 10. I think we're not going to rely on him as much as, Drew Brees did the year that he set that record, right? And, everyone calls him slant boy and all that stuff because, he only runs those short routes. But the fact that you have Michael Thomas and you're going to have Jarvis Landry, running these short routes, and then you're going to have, Olave and Traquan Smith, burning people on the outside. I think that's going to take a lot of pressure off him, a lot of targets, a lot of hits. I think he's definitely going to be over 10 games this year.
Yeah. If I'm Michael Thomas and somebody calls me slant boy, I'm gonna follow the Chris Kendrick rule, and I'm gonna open up the Citibank app, and I'm gonna say, hey, check this out, right? I'm gonna show them what's going on at Citibank. Call me whatever the hell you want. Right? That's how slants work.
Oh yeah, man. No, he's
slants
making it
between all those digits is the slants you need to worry
about. Dylan, deal or no deal? $5 million Baker Mayfield.
Deal? Like what? Why? Like I don't think Baker.
I'm sorry. What's that question? What is that question exactly? Would you sign Baker Mayfield for $5 million?
Well, actually, the way things look, unless things change, Cleveland is going to be stuck paying at least $18 million, I believe, of his salary.
So in this world, Cleveland just releases him. He's an unrestricted free agent, and all you have to do is pay him $5 million?
No.
Okay.
If anybody signs him, Cleveland has to pay all of his salary except $5 million.
Is that real? Is that going to happen?
I think that's a scenario he's
okay.
That's what I'm asking, because right now Cleveland is responsible for $18 million of his salary next year. So any team that would sign him could sign him for
discounted
$5 million.
Gotcha. Well, that's an easy question.
Oh, that's
you don't need to take much time on that one, do you?
No, deal, man. It's like, well, you think about it too, especially if you're the Saints, because you have Jameis Winston. He is our guy. Like, he was lighting it up. And me being, probably the biggest OU football fan ever, fanboyed over Baker Mayfield. I still wouldn't take him over Jameis Winston from what we saw last year with the Saints. But can't rely on him being healthy. And who are you going to rely on? You're going to rely on Taysom Hill and Ian Book. But now we have Andy Dalton, right? But I would still take $5 million Baker Mayfield over Andy Dalton for sure. But, I think that's an easy deal for sure. I think a lot of teams would take that deal to have Baker as a backup for $5 million for sure.
Well, this is one of the things that I believe. What is the Jaguars and who else was it that were holding out? This is what they were. Now this is what they're hoping for because, like I said, if you can get Baker Mayfield for $5 million, but once again, are you going to make that the new progressive house now, Dylan?
Oh, dude, no, dude. He comes. Imagine if he sits there and like the commercials are that he's moving out of progressive and then he's moving into the Superdome. Like that would be. They have to carry that on somehow.
Throws down all his insurance paperwork. gets into a Mercedes, drives off. Right?
No, it's the Caesars Superdome now. It's the casino now.
So he just opens up his sports book and starts placing bets.
Oh yeah, he starts placing bets. He's living in a casino there.
Oh man,
it's like I got the Celtics in 6. Okay.
Is anybody? Hey, speaking of the Celtics, anybody seeing what's going on?
Stop talking about them.
I thought you were watching.
I thought it was obvious. So I just kind of let it roll.
It wasn't obvious to me.
You all have your own internal thoughts. But.
Okay, so the Saints record.
No, great expectations. The Saints going to be NFC champs.
That's kind of ballsy.
Yeah.
I'll let Dylan go.
That is very ballsy.
You picked them to beat the Bucks, so that means they have to get in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, but we can never beat the Bucks in the playoffs. That's the thing. It's like what I was saying earlier. We kick their ass when it doesn't matter, right? So that's what it is. But you think about how we kept Dennis Allen and we've kept pretty much the entire defense. We add Tyrann Mathieu, which, to us, it's a lot bigger deal. Louisiana guy, decent safety, brings that swagger to that defense that was already there with DeMario Davis and Cam Jordan, all that stuff.
You talking about Honey Bear?
Huh?
Honey Badger. No.
That's another inside joke. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Honey Bear.
But you add Jarvis Landry too, and Chris Olave. I don't think we're NFC champs, but I think we scare some people, especially, in the playoffs. I don't think we'll be able to make the Super Bowl. No. But it's fun to think about, and I think the hype is there that people think we could be, but I really don't see that happening, especially in Dennis Allen's first year being a head coach.
What's your record?
My record, I'm going to go trying to remember what I said on last podcast. I want to say 12-5. I think it's what I usually have it at. 'Cause I do this all the time, guys. I look at stuff. I'm going to say 12-5. That's if, Jameis stays healthy, everything goes right. It'll be 12-5.
Okay, let's see. Let's go move on to the Falcons here. The Falcons, let's see. Oh yeah, they gave Mr. Grady, defensive tackle Grady Jarrett an extension. What's your thoughts on Mr. Jarrett there, Bill?
Well, so Grady Jarrett has long been a favorite of mine, and another guy that I think is massively underrated. Sort of like Corey Peters, another one of those guys who's just a classic 3 minutes upfield penetrator. Plays hard, can do a little bit of everything at a high level that you'd ever ask a under tackle or 3-tech defensive tackle to do. And he's a player that is a bridge player, right? From your previous, talent mix to the next one. So he's going to help to sort of bridge that from the old to the new. He's a really good football player. I mean, I guess that's really what it comes down to. And they want him to finish his career there. So I guess they want him to retire as a Falcon.
Chris, it's June 2nd. Do you think the Falcons will trade Deion Jones?
I mean, I'm not sure. He's been such a key player for their defense for so long now that, I mean, he's a guy that I think that the Falcons would like to have him just be there for his career, but we'll kind of see what happens. I know that I'm a Big Sky Conference guy, and the Falcons did draft Troy Anderson out of Montana State in the second round, so I don't know if they're looking at him as possibly being that replacement for Deion Jones, but he is a converted quarterback, played, in a smaller conference, so it's be a big expectations for him to kind of assume that role. But it's an interesting thing. I don't think he has as much value as he did a few years ago, if they are trying to move him, but he's still, a good player, and they can get something for him if they are going to go that way with the rebuild.
Yeah. If they decide to go that way, the area code for Allen Park, Michigan is 313, just for the record.
Yeah.
Because
I'll take him in New England too.
That's a deficiency with my team. Yeah.
Yeah. And of course, Arnold Ebiketie, who we
right. Can't sleep on that guy.
What do you guys think about the acquisition of Geronimo Allison?
I'll take that one, guys, because Geronimo Allison was on the roster of one team that plays in said Allen Park, Michigan last year, and he couldn't crack the roster with us. So I'm going to say insignificant, not a big deal, all due respect to him and his family. He couldn't get out of our wide receiver room last year. Yeah, I don't want to waste everybody's time talking about Geronimo Allison. He couldn't play on our roster last year. Sorry, bro.
What do you think the Falcons' record is going to be, Demetrius?
So I think there's going to be a struggle. I think they're going to be up and down. Is that Bill? Did you guys get that noise, or is it just me?
I heard a concert kick through or something.
Yeah. Bill left us on the concert room. I think it'll be a tough year for the Falcons, largely because I really like the Bucs and the Saints. So I think they're in a tough division. I think they feel like a 6-11 team to me, and that might be generous because I don't hate Marcus Mariota, but I can't say I like Marcus Mariota. So that might be the top end. That might be the 4-13 kind of thing, and I'm being generous with 6 wins. But there's just so much I don't know, and when there's a question mark at quarterback, it's hard to give anybody a whole lot of wins when you got that kind of situation. So,
Mr. Scott, how many games you got the Falcons winning next year?
With all their turnover, with all their they're another team I think is kind of starting over. They lost their great long-time stability in the quarterback. They'll be under 500. I don't know how much under, but I'm taking them under 500. They'll be better than the Lions, but they're not going to be better than the
Okay, I'm willing to take that bet right now. You name the terms, you name the dollar amount, you name whatever you want. Straight up, Lions, Falcons win total, I take that bet all day, every day. Whatever the conditions are, I'm in. You can name the terms. I take that bet right now. That's an easy one.
I'll take that under advisement.
Yeah, take it under advisement. You just email me the price. I don't even care what the terms are. I don't care what you want to bet. I got a decent 401k. We can make this fun if you want. I mean, I don't know if we're going to break some laws or whatever, but whatever.
Long as I get my 3%, I'm
you
fine.
get your VIG, it's all good, right?
Bill, what do you think the Falcons record is going to be this year?
Falcons have a legitimate chance to have the first overall pick in the 2023 draft. Somebody's talking about teams that might win 3 or 4 games. This is a team that I think might win 3 or 4 games. So they have a lot of things that have to sort of work the right way for them. I think and once again, this is just me sort of reading tea leaves, but I think what they'd like to do, I think Terry Fontenot, if I remember correctly, is their GM, is intending to do is basically take it on the nose, take it on the chin, take it on the whatever this year. Eat some dead cap, move on from some guys, hopefully draft well, the next couple of years, and then by say 2024, be back to being a contender.
Dylan.
Yeah, like what Bill said, I think Marcus Mariota is like a good placeholder for who they're going to draft at number 1 overall next year at quarterback, for sure. Like C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, whoever, right? But I'm going to say be generous, 5-12, but I wouldn't be shocked if they're like, 3
Yeah, why the hell are we being
13.
generous?
No, sorry, 3-14.
It's like Chris is like 11:30 in Boston.
I'll give
right
you
now.
guys. I'll give you guys the lines. The lines 4.5 wins over under. I'm going.
Okay.
Under.
Oh, for the
So
Falcons,
I would take the under on that one.
I'm taking the under too.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take the under. I'm right about 4. That's tough.
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's see. Let's get this last little team out of the way here. Let's see. What do you guys think, man? Maybe we should trade these guys here over to USFL.
The Falcons, or are we moving on to the Panthers? What are we talking about?
We're talking about the Panthers here. A revamped O-line. What do you think about what the Falcons did in their draft, Bill? I mean the Panthers.
Panthers.
Okay, just making sure. Well, so the Panthers are an interesting case study, right? At one point, they looked like they were building around essentially the running back position, right? Basically, with their White Alvin Kamara, they were going to at least look like they were going to be a team that ran him a bunch and then threw the ball. When they weren't handing it to him, they're going to throw it to him. And he had a couple of terrific, almost 2 terrific seasons. And then, shocker, he began to physically break down. So they have now, I'm assuming they'll now take some of the load off of him. But they did a really good job getting Ikenwanu, who I think is going to be a terrific player right out of the box. Yeah. Jason Peters type physical ability. And then they followed up with one of the more interesting boomer bust type prospects in Matt Corral, a guy who has a lot of talent, unfortunately a little bit off the field, and also a guy that throws his body around like a rental. He needs to calm that down because he's not quite built for that. I think that great value in getting Brandon Smith, the 120th pick. I think he's a starter at linebacker for them. And they followed up by getting Marabana at 189, who I think ends up being a really good DPR, designated pass rusher. If you don't ask him to do anything else, basically, but go get him. We're talking about he's basically a poor man's Montez Sweat, and they got him, 189th. And then in terms of value, in fact, I don't think there's a single team that got more value for where they were picking in this class than they did. Cade Mays is a future starter at either guard or tackle, and they got him at 199. And they kind of took a flyer on Kalen Barnes, another one of those super, super, super fast guys from Baylor, a guy who was a tremendous track athlete. Not really a true football player yet, but they're hoping that he at least helps them on special teams and maybe he develops. So I think it's in terms of value, one of the best drafts of anybody.
Do you agree with that, Dylan?
I do agree. And I think that they've got their franchise left tackle in Ikwaknu. Is that how you pronounce the last name? Ikwaknu?
Ikwanu, yep.
Ikwanu. Okay. Yep. Yeah, so no, he's definitely going to be their franchise left tackle. I think he's, he seems from what I realize from what I've looked at, like at the draft grades and stuff, I agree with Bill. They definitely got a lot of value in what they have. I like Matt Corral. I think he's going to be a decent – I don't think he's going to come in this year and light it up. I think he could be one of the case studies of look at like Jimmy Garoppolo, like sit a couple of years, come out and be, pretty good, right? Especially where they drafted him. I know they traded up for him. But their O-line, I think definitely getting that franchise left tackle hopefully that helps a little bit, but you just never know what's going to happen with Sam Darnold. You don't know if the offensive line's going to be, any help of him. It's just, I really don't have too much to say about the Panthers. Like you said, we could trade him to the USFL and probably not even notice. So the whole franchise.
Chris, what do you think about Chuba Hubbard? Is this the year that he has to break out?
I mean, a lot of that's going to just depend on whether Christian McCaffrey's healthy. Because if Christian McCaffrey's healthy, if he's healthy, then Chuba Hubbard's not going to be really seeing the field that much. Just because
no breaking
McCaffrey,
out.
McCaffrey is just an all-down back. So it's going to depend on the health of McCaffrey. If he's out, then yeah, we could definitely see something big out of Chuba Hubbard. But if McCaffrey's in, then that's not happening.
When's the last time he stayed healthy, though?
Yeah.
Chris was saying that kind of tongue-in-cheek. You could tell.
Yeah.
But he's dead on.
Also, what
right.
would be a breakout season for Chuba Hubbard anyway? Like, I mean, even if McCaffrey's out, you're still on a Carolina team that's not moving the ball.
Right. It's not possible for Chuba Hubbard to break out if Christian McCaffrey's healthy. It's just you can't do it.
Yeah.
So
we could talk about it, guys, after this too. That the Celtics just
breakout is probably about 640 combined yards from scrimmage between rushing and passing. And he probably starts 2 or 3 games because of what we just said about Christian McCaffrey. 3 or 4 touchdowns. I think that's completely something he could reach, considering he'll probably end up starting a game or 2 because of what we just said.
Yeah, and I wasn't as big on Kimikwanu. I was more of an Evan Neal fan personally out of Alabama. Just he played more versatility, played at Alabama. I think a lot of people think Kimikwanu can come in and be that tackle, but he's a big guy. They're not sure if he can maintain the speed, so he might end up being a guard. So we'll kind of see, especially when you had Charles Cross too on the board with Evan Neal, for them to go again. Kwanu was a little.
Thing is, Bill stole my thunder earlier. I had a whole Cade Mays thing ready to go. Hey guys, watch out! This guy's going to be a starting guard in the league for the next 10 years, and Bill just slipped it in like it was nothing. I love the Cade Mays pick. I do. I think that's a guy who he's just going to pencil him in for a decade. And guards don't ever get noticed, so we'll never talk about him again on the Sports Crib.
Yep.
But we will notice him other times.
Now, guys, we did talk about Baker Mayfield a little earlier, but last week I believe I said that, was it Sam Darnold that was ranked 31st in the league? So once again, I'm going to kind of just throw it out there. Baker Mayfield for $5 million. Is Baker Mayfield the Panthers starting quarterback at the end of the season?
If you drop him on that roster, he's the best quarterback by far on that roster. Like that for 5. I mean, once again, I don't know if you can get him for 5, but if that's the deal, then I mean, before you finish saying it, they would have already agreed to it.
Well, they tried it, but Cleveland at that particular time, Cleveland doesn't want to pay that $18 million. They were trying to move him for a different. But this is one of the teams that was interested in Baker from the beginning.
Yep.
So if Cleveland cuts him and they're responsible for $18 million, and Baker's laying out there, as you said, I mean, Demetrius, is Baker the starting quarterback at the end of the season?
No. So I have to put myself in the shoes of one Matthew Kenneth Rule. And so that's a dedication to Bill, middle names, in case you guys don't know how that works.
Got it earlier.
Every now and then you just randomly throw in a middle name for no reason. But Matthew Kenneth Rule, if I'm sitting there the day after the draft and I think, I've got Sam Darnold, which we are starting to know what he is, but you have Matt Corral. And whatever Matt Corral's making, it ain't $5 million. And you still have a salary cap. So the idea is, do I believe Baker Mayfield, a known commodity, Baker Mayfield's plateau, ceiling, whatever we think that is it higher than what Matt Corral could be? And I fancy myself a coach that can bring the best out of this quarterback. If I'm in his shoes, I probably don't. I probably say, I have to at least find out what Matt Corral is. And if you bring Baker in, you're just taking reps from Matt Corral. You're taking away reps from Matt Corral.
Mm-hmm.
And quarterbacks in the project parameter don't get better on Sunday. They get better during the week, getting reps in practice. And if Baker Mayfield's on your roster and Sam Darnold's still on your roster, guess who's not getting any reps? Matt Corral. And so it doesn't, just from a strictly logical sense, it doesn't make sense to me. Now, if you had not drafted Matt Corral, maybe.
Yep.
It would be tempting if it's only $5 million. You would probably think about it. But I think ultimately you owe it to Matt Corral. You probably owe it to yourself and your scouting department. Because somebody on that scouting department said, look, let's take this kid. He's there. Let's see what Matt Corral is. You're not going to win this year. You're probably not going to win next year. You might as well see what you have in Matt Corral. So I don't think Baker ends up with the Panthers. Much more likely, I'm still on the Seattle bandwagon, but I don't think he ends up in Carolina.
Mr. Scott, what do you think? What do you think, Baker? Do you think he ends up as a Panther or not?
Well, not necessarily. I don't know who else needs a quarterback, though. I mean, he seems to have the mindset that he can come somewhere and be a starter. And that's the thing about him. I don't know, does he want to go somewhere and be a backup? I mean, he could be a backup where he's at, I would think. But he wants to be a starter, and I don't know that there's any place that he can go and be a starter. That they're going to just say, you're our guy. I don't know that there's any teams, maybe Detroit, because they don't really have much of a quarterback. But
so the answer to I'm just going to interrupt him now. See, that was unprovoked. Fuck it. I'm interrupting him now. It's Seattle is the place. I generally don't be rude like that, guys. That shit was unprovoked. I've been nice to him for the last hour and a half. Seattle is the answer. As much as Drew Lock is a nice kid, Seattle's the answer to this question. He can walk into Seattle.
They need
he can probably start.
Yeah, Einstein, I agree with you on that one. Seattle.
Nice.
As the one place he cannot end up is there.
Right, you cannot. No.
I don't care.
You got too many dudes in that room already, bro. You got Trubisky, you got Pickett, you still got Mason Rudolph in that room, and there's an empty chair called Ben Roethlisberger's elbow that has not been removed from the room yet. So
the kids are going to drive him back. Don't worry.
Those Roethlisberger kids are throwing shit all over the floor right now.
That's what I'm afraid of. That's exactly what I'm afraid of, guys. Oh, man. Well, hey. Always a lot of fun. So let's kind of wrap it up here and throw our final thoughts out there. Your Celtics prevailed tonight, Chris. You want to?
Those are your final thoughts, right?
I'm just give you guys just a few facts. I'm not superstitious, but I definitely am a little stitious. The third quarter was not looking good for the Celtics. I've done this during the series. I've made decisions where I'm not going to watch the game anymore. I'm going to do it for the team. And after I turn the game off, they crush the Warriors. I'm going to see if that's the thing moving forward. I hoped it wasn't. It's been kind of the juju this playoff run is that if I'm not watching, they play a little bit better than when I am watching.
Yeah. It's you, bro. It's absolutely you. That's good fan. That's real fan shit right there.
That's how you got to be a fan and get your team a win. So if you want to hear more about this shit and the nonsense I'm going to be doing in the Celtics run, listen to my podcast, A Bit Inside Pod. A Bit Inside Podcast, A Bit Inside Pod on Twitter and Instagram.
Absolutely.
Mr. Scott, your final thoughts for the evening.
Well, I guess I could tell right away that Golden State lost because my phone was blowing up. So
we heard it.
So I could tell. But yeah, looking forward to a good Twins season. I'm going when the Yankees come. Is it later this week, early next week? I got some tickets. I always go see and sit in the right field stands. And when Aaron Judge comes up, I'll rise. I tell everyone, I'll rise for the Judge. I'm part of that group back there. So Twins are in first place. Big series coming up with the East. They've been having a lot of problems. They've been terrified of the Yankees for years. So we'll see. Good baseball season now that basketball's winding down. Good hockey season. Our Wild couldn't quite get past the first round to St. Louis, but they had a great season. So yeah, I'm willing to continue to follow our Twins, Vikings, Timberwolves, beating Detroit, winning over Chicago, dominating our divisions, and things are looking good for my team.
All right, Mr. Scott, always pleasures, always.
Yes. Good to see you. Always fun. Always fun.
Bill.
So on this day, right, a couple of things that are interesting in the history of sports happened. Both Ken Griffey Jr. and George Herman Babe Ruth retired, announced their retirements on June 2nd. But that's not what I'm going to make my final thought about. My final thought has to do with a former teammate of George Herman Ruth, Lou Gehrig. On this day in 1941, the former Iron Horse, pulled into the station one last time at the age of 37 from amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, which, because of his death, untimely death at 37, came to be known as Lou Gehrig disease. One of the few college-educated players in his day, had been a terrific football player also in college at Columbia University, was a fullback, and also played defensive end. And chose baseball because that's where the money was in those days. You couldn't really make any money playing professional football in those days. But, he very famously goes out to take over at first base when Wally Pipp complains of a headache. And, of course, 2,130 games later, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis ends that Iron Man streak. But he was one of – can a player be as great as he was and still somehow be underrated? I guess the answer is yes. When you go back and look at his numbers, it's only because, of course, he played with Ruth that, people don't realize how gaudy, outlandish, and insane his numbers are. His numbers are nuts. He really was – like, we talk about guys like Paul Goldschmidt and other guys who put up crazy, crazy numbers and have great careers, and he just dwarfs them. He's one of the probably top 20-something, 30 players in the history of baseball. Has been playing a very long time in America, or America a long time at least. And, I can't push him out of the top 25.
Top 15. I think you're.
Yeah,
I don't know if you're being. He's up there.
Yes, probably top 15, and was so, I won't say boring, but despite all of his greatness, there just wasn't always a sense of how great he was because, like I said, as I just mentioned, he did things in a very quiet manner, right? I'll just lay out a few numbers since we talk about numbers. We like numbers around here. The man's career WAR is 113.6. He won the Triple Crown, 7-time All-Star, 6-time World Series champ, 2-time MVP, won a batting title, 493 home runs, 2,721 hits, 340 lifetime batting average. Despite all that power, he was a guy that made a lot of contact. A lifetime OPS of 1.080, right? Almost 1,100 as a lifetime OPS. But the number that I'm fondest of, all these crazy numbers that he put up in this rather amazing career, is the one that sort of would be the least, one that would stand out the most, one that would be the least like what you would see if you looked at a player's career now. Despite all of the numbers he put up, this is a guy that very, very rarely struck out. So in that 17-year career, he had 790 strikeouts. In no season did he ever have more than 84. In no season did he ever more than 84. He only did it like once. It was only 80 once. And then he had another season with over 70. Only 2 times in his career did he strike out more than 70 times. And he had some seasons where he struck out 31 times, right? There were years where he had more home runs than strikeouts. So very different from the approach you see from power hitters nowadays. Truly, and he was a very good defensive first baseman, which isn't talked about very much, but he's also a good defensive first baseman. I just think as amongst the greatest of the greats, he's not talked about enough for the right things. People used to remember him for the, right now I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth and all that. The pride of the Yankees and people seeing Gary Cooper play him and things like that. But I think it's lost a little bit. It's just how great a baseball is. He was an off-the-charts, amazing, crazy bananas great baseball player. And so that's my final thought.
Well done.
Demetrius.
Yep. So I'm going to do my old man Black Sox, get off my lawn kid thing. So you guys know me well enough to know this football team is my passion, but right behind that is baseball. Right? Somebody should do a documentary on the summer of 1984 in Detroit, Michigan. It would be worthwhile, right? I love baseball, right? And I am tired. And if somebody on this call is one of these people, no, I don't apologize. Fuck it. You are one of these people. I'm tired of people telling me they need to shorten the game. They're trying to take 20 minutes here. If you can't sit down for 3 hours and watch a baseball game, and whether it's Mr. Scott's team 3 weeks ago swept my team 4 straight games, but 3 of those games were good ass games, and they were still games in the 8th or 9th inning. My team just took 4 or 5 from them. Today's game was 3-2, right? Yesterday, pitching Jim by a good young pitcher. Remember the name Tarek Skubal. You're going to need to know that name. That kid can pitch the baseball. Baseball is different. Stop trying to make baseball like football and basketball. And if you don't like it, and you're telling me I can enjoy a 3-hour game, but damn it, 3:30 is just too much. You're just not a baseball fan, and I don't want to be your friend. I need you to go away. It's a wonderful game. If you just embrace the game for what it is and stop trying to make it like football and basketball, if you're an instant gratification dude, you're not a baseball fan, and I'm okay with that. Baseball's got problems. Every game's got problems. Baseball's problem is competitive balance. It's not the pace of play or the speed of it. It's that we know by June there's 6, maybe 8 teams that have a real shot. That's it. In football, every year you could legitimately say 20 teams. Who thought the Bengals were going to the Super Bowl? None of us, right? In the NFL is the reason they run the world is they have competitive balance. Because Bill will correct me if I'm wrong. I'm going to say it was Wellington Mara at some point in the 50s or 60s said, I own the New York effing Giants. I don't care about a team in Green Bay, Wisconsin or Kansas City, Missouri. I ain't sharing my revenue with those clowns. To hell with them. He could have done that, but he didn't. They realized share the revenue with everybody. You can have a team in Green Bay. You can have a team in Tampa Bay, Florida, Kansas City, Missouri, and everybody gets money. If the pie is bigger, everybody's piece is bigger. And you're never going to get the owner of the Dodgers or the Yankees or the Red Sox. No disrespect. I wish we were them, and we were until our owner died. You're not going to get those people in the room and say, let's share the revenue with the Royals and the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. They don't care. They don't care. That's the problem. And even then, Mr. Scott and I have taken 4 or 5 shots about the fucking Tigers and the Twins because baseball is awesome. It doesn't matter. His team's in first, my team's in third. But you know what? This is the 4th time I'm going to mention it. We just took 4 out of 5 from them, right? And I'm happy as hell. We've won 7 of 10. We're not making the playoffs. I don't care. My summer is around that baseball team. And baseball there's nothing wrong with baseball. Pace of play. I don't need a pitch clock. I'm tired of hearing people talk about that. If you don't like the game, just say you don't like the game and go watch something else. Stop trying to change the game. The game, competitive balance, we can have that conversation. Revenue sharing, salary cap, I'll have those talks. Stop telling me there's something wrong with the game. I've been watching it since I was 6. There ain't nothing wrong with baseball. You just don't like it, and that's cool. Go play a video game. Go get on your Twitter feed, whatever. But stop trying to change my game. I'm starting to get pissed off. That's what I'm saying. Get off my grass, kid.
Dylan, take us home after that, man.
You know, I was gonna talk about how I was wrong about the finals prediction we did at the very beginning, right? But one thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take off what Demetrius said, talk about baseball, because that was my sport growing up. That was my favorite sport. That's probably I have season tickets to a minor league baseball team here in Tulsa.
The Drillers,
right?
Yeah, we
exactly. So it's like okay, my
it.
thing is exactly, Demetrius, stop trying to change the game. If you're going to change it, stop trying to shorten it up. Stop trying to kind of get rid of what it is, and kind of just get to the point to what made the game popular. Like when was it's super exciting, right? When was all eyes on baseball? Sammy Sosa, Mark McGwire, Barry Bonds, all that stuff.
25-cent hot dogs and $1 beer.
Exactly. Look at that right there.
You can do all that. You can cork bats. You can juice the ball. I don't care about any of that. Stop talking about pitch clocks and shit, though.
Yeah, and adding a second base runner every extra inning to try to shorten the game. And it's just one of those things where you take away the love of the game to try to conform for, the next generation. But I think, the love of baseball is still going to be there for the people who love baseball. Baseball has always been, the sport behind, football, basketball excitement. No one ever thinks about it when football and baseball or basketball are going on. But when there's only baseball going on, baseball is the pinnacle of sports in America, right? And I think that's still going to stay the same regardless. So I'm with Demetrius on there. Stop trying to change it and, juice up the bats again.
And if somebody tells you a beautiful July day, beautiful June day, you can take your son somewhere. And I like hockey too. You can take them to a hockey game. You can take them to a football game, or you can take them down to the ballpark, right? You can take them down to the ballpark for that. See what they did? They're pissing off old guys. They don't want me and Mr. Scott to become allies. If we're aligned, now you're in trouble. They need us to be fighting with it because you piss both of us off and now you're in trouble. I appreciate that, by the way. I'm glad I wasn't out there on the island by myself.
No, man, I'm with you.
All right, guys. Well, hey, I know it's getting close to midnight somewhere where you guys
Chris is about to do a whole bunch of post-game drinking. He ain't going to bed. Congratulations, bro. Nice win, man.
Let's go.
Awesome.
Let's help these boys. We'll see how it is next week.
All right, guys. Have a great one.
Have a good one, guys.
Talk to everybody next week, man. Have a good night. Have a great weekend, everybody.